goes 5, 4, 3.
Howdy, folks. Droves Double J back here, coming at you live from my studio / home on the range. I'm a bison rancher now. Anyhow, folks, in the interwebs, once again, JJ Vance, not the vice president, host of Operation GCD. Welcome back, folks, to the interwebs. Thanks again for joining me here tonight to get a little GCD for Operation GCD Fridaze, a weekly roundtable discussions on conspiracy culture and high weirdness. And speaking of such, joining me here tonight, got some fantastic guests and a real barn burner for you folks. Got Landon, the host of the Daily Dissident, and Tim, host of the Sixth Century podcast. Welcome back to Operation GCD, gents, for your very first times.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
We're back in the saddle, Tim. We're back in the saddle.
Oh, man.
Right.
And it's perfect timing. I was just reading the other day that they're doing a National Treasure 3 in the works.
Wow.
So I was like, that's perfect. We still got to do a National Treasure 2 for an occult and esoteric film review. But I highly recommend folks check that out. Where both of these gents join me for that review. And fantastic stuff unpacking the mediocre film career of Nicolas Cage, which was the topic of Operation GCD's film review last month in March. Nicolas Cage all month.
You didn't review 8mm?
No, we did that already. We did that back in the fall.
You didn't go back to the well one more time.
No, I picked some other. So we did Wicker Man, of course. Next, which is one based on Philip K. Dick short story. The Cotton Club, which is one of his first roles as Nicolas. I think that was his first role as Nicolas Cage. Previous to that, he was acting as Nicolas Coppola. But I love shitting on Nicolas Cage's career. He's a weird, creepy fellow. I'll say that much.
I imagine that when it comes to some of these sequel, like where you have a couple movies in a row, what I don't remember what they call that, but it'll come to me in a minute. But when you have these movies where they're like, okay, we're planning on a 15-year plan to put out 3 of these films or 4 of these films, I imagine all those contracts are being pushed forward right now because of the AI. AI is like really, it's getting in the craw of a bunch of Hollywood people. They're feeling the pressure from it. They think that they're going to be, done away with by robots, essentially.
Yeah, there's a lot of fear of that for sure. I know what you're saying. Like the Avatar film series, we're like, hey, we're going to make a bunch of blue films, peoples in blue universe for 20 years.
Blue tree humping critters.
It was long rumored there was going to be a National Treasure 3. It was in the production, at least early production, probably 10 years ago, and it got shut down. So I often wonder, if divulging some of these ancient American secrets, because they obviously do divulge stuff in those films. I mean, it's an initiation of sorts, I would say, but I wonder if it's just too much for some folks to try to shut down the production kind of deal.
They're definitely leaking information in these films. How organized they are with that is anybody's guess. I mean, you could fall down the rabbit hole with that one and start looking into all these directors and looking into them on an individual level and just seeing what are their ties with the occult. And, usually you're going to find something. So I do think that there's, controlled drops of information. I mean, I'm doing it myself. Like I've got information this year that I want to release. I've got a whole stack of stuff over here that I'm wanting to put out this year. So if I do it, I know they're doing it, right? Or at least I assume.
I think so. I think that is the purpose of the occultists in a certain regard, is to kind of be egotistical and brag about some of these concepts in their art. But that's also what I see in a lot of film, and that's why I do the occult and esoteric film reviews, because we see a lot of truth in film, whether it's accidental or intentional. I mean, I think a lot of times it's intentional. Look at the film Wag the Dog. We have a situation where there's a White House individual, it's not the national security advisor, but playing a national security advisor type of role by Robert De Niro. And we got Dustin Hoffman literally doing a satirical take on Bob Cocaine Evans, the film producer, dressing as him, acting like him. Well, old Bob Cocaine Evans' BFF was Henry Kissinger. So I think De Niro is representing the Kissinger kind of friendship with with Bob Cocaine Evans. And I do think they filmed some fake conflicts before and sold it to people as real, just like we see in Wag the Dog. Old Henry Kissinger, Cocaine Bob, that is.
You said Wicker Man earlier. That's the whole Burning Man stuff, right?
Yeah, it's creepy, isn't it?
Yeah.
The very end of that movie, right? I don't know, I'm not going to give it away. I'm not trying to give it away, but
it's an older film. Was it 2007?
Yeah, at least it might be older than that. But
2009, I think it was 2009. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the end ritual. I don't remember all the details, but they do burn him on a beach, and in a ritualistic fashion, right? And you're saying that there's ties with that scene in like the actual Burning Man? Is that what?
Oh, dude, it's an ancient pagan ritual. That whole process that you see in the film.
weave basket too.
Yeah,
that's
and the actual Burning Man festival in Nevada was started by a bunch of Discordians, who I assert this chaos cult, which clearly erupts out of the process church movement in New Orleans in '67, and their leader is associated with the process church, Kerry Thornley. Suspect in the JFK assassination as the double Oswald, and confirmed friend of Oswald. So that whole high weirdness surrounding that whole Burning Man festival comes from the epicenter of high weirdness.
New Orleans, Petty, right?
JJ, what's that guy's
name? New Orleans is a great example of ancient America. By the way, I just want to throw that in because you just happened to mention it. I've been looking into that region a lot lately. So, oh really?
I do a series on here called Chasing Manir with Brad Minyard. He found his forefather working in the Washington spy network, recruited out of Rowan County, North Carolina, by Washington's chief of recruiting for a spy network, Captain William Rickard of the Society of Cincinnati. So we've been tracking that because they were following the Aaron Burr conspiracy, which is all about. This is before his forefather was assigned to following Theodosia Burr, Aaron Burr's daughter.
What's the city there in Rowan County? Is it Statesville, or is it? There's right there. They were doing something in North Carolina. They were up to
Statesville's not far. I don't think that's in Rowan County though, is it?
It might not be Statesville. I'll have to look it up in a minute. But it's near. These guys had some sort of major secret society activities going on down there in Rowan County, like you said. And the city nearby, because I looked at this once, has a lot of very strange, we could call it out of place architecture. Old buildings.
I think it's Salisbury.
It's Salisbury. That's exactly the place, man.
That's the capital seat of the county there, or whatever the county.
Yeah, there's some. I'll just use the word old world, right? There's some very old world style buildings there. It's
interesting you say that. So in that series, we end up following the Burr conspiracy business into New Orleans. So I've been looking over all the French chapter stuff. That's why I was looking at New Orleans. Because Andrew Jackson's involved in all these things. He was the general down there in the Battle of New Orleans, War of 1812, and the society efforts down there in America. But the whole Louisiana Purchase was a Society of Cincinnati land deal, right? Based on a Templar land claim from their forefathers, basically. So that's kind of where my interest has been throughout that piece. But it's interesting you say that in tracking his forefather and my forefather, Abner Vance and Joseph Minyard / Joseph Manir, James Minyard / Joseph Manir. He took off French. The reason why I've also been in the French stuff is because his forefather, James Minyard, took on a French name, Joseph Manir, in his spy life. So and embedded himself in the French chapter side of things. It's interesting, but he came out of Rowan County, and in 1782, George Washington's there, and I would argue they're visiting his son Abner Vance. That's where Abner Vance was, and James Minyard are all there.
Yeah. All right, so let me say something real quick. See where this goes and see what you think about it, because you talked about this. A Louisiana Purchase being a part of a Templar land claim. I'm pretty much on board with that. I see that definitely being a factor. Now, let's talk about the La Nouvelle expedition for a second. If you Google it or look on Wikipedia and you put in La Nouvelle, or actually if you just look at Louisiana history in general, they start Louisiana history in the 1700s. And if you Google La Nouvelle, basically all that comes up, unless you do an advanced search, is a modern restaurant. This is what I'm saying. It's like some of this has been swept up, right? But La Nouvelle was actually a 1534 expedition that established the territory of New France.
Yeah,
So they came in from the St. Lawrence. Now I think they were coming up the Mississippi too. Don't get me wrong, but for this particular expedition, they came in from the St. Lawrence in Canada and came down. And I think that ties directly into the Templars because I think the Templars came down into the Great Lakes, reached that point of Lake Superior, right where Duluth is, docked there, got out of the boat, and traveled down into Wisconsin where they put the stone, the rune stone there. What's it called? The
Kensington rune stone?
Yeah. So just to wrap this up and put a bow on it, I guess that's the route that I think that the La Nouvelle expedition was following. They were following a previously Templar mapped out route. So they come in from St. Lawrence. They knew to include the Mississippi in that deal all the way down to the Gulf. You know what I'm saying? Like why with the
I think you're spot on, dude. I think there's a lot of little riverways that would connect all these little lakes we now see, right?
So to put it together, they already knew about coming down to St. Lawrence, getting into Lake Superior, putting the Kensington rune stone where it was. They already knew about that area. And on the Mississippi side down south, they knew about New Orleans because I think New Orleans was already there in the 1500s. I don't think that the French, they say that the French didn't acquire New Orleans until 1680s, but okay, maybe. But there was already something there. That'd be my point. And the Templars had it all mapped out, dude. They had the St. Lawrence all the way down to where you would eventually encounter New Orleans at the port of the mouth of the Mississippi. I don't know. Does that make sense?
No, it makes a lot of sense.
They found it
right here, man. It's not far off.
Tim, do you think they like? Do you think they built it? Is the question, or do you think they found it?
Oh man, that's interesting. That got me into early pirate activity, which I could circle back to later. I don't want to open that can right now, but there's no telling who founded the New Orleans originally. My guess would probably be some sort of a group of secret society members and early pirates out of the Middle East, Phoenicians, people from Crete, people from Manoa. That seems to be who was in that area. And of course, the Templars had a lot of ties to those early Phoenician secret societies.
So they're the descendants of them, right? Because that's why we see
that's where they learned
see all
the
these
game.
Phoenician artifacts in these mounds. I think that's one of the reasons the Templars and their descendants, the Society of Cincinnati, venerate the mounds because that's their heritage. They know that.
Right. And they start in France as well, Tim. I mean, you can point to that, French, and they start in France. The Templars do.
Yeah, so you do see
New
this.
Orleans was controlled by the Spaniards, though. That was
they say that
they didn't found it, but the only reason I say that is because you got Spaniard families of the Templar descendants as well, right? So you have Templars dispersed. Someone went to Portugal, like the Christopher Columbus crowd we were kind of mentioning before the show there. He's part of that whole crowd, the Knights of Christ or whatever. They're in Portugal,
right? That was a sect of Templars.
That was a damn stronghold there, wasn't it?
So then you have that same kind of outfit in Spain, and that's who I think we see in the Louisiana, New Orleans situation, which still serves today, in my opinion, as the headquarters of the French chapter of the Society of Cincinnati, because they got thrown out of France in 1792, and they were dealing with all that British-controlled ownership of Quebec at the time. So then they set up shop mostly down in New Orleans.
What about the name, Tim?
When we're talking about real quick, when we're talking about the Society of Cincinnati, this is absolutely involved. I had it on the tip of my tongue and I totally lost it. But it's basically what they did was they just I totally lost it because you asked me a question, man. What are you asking me?
The name. When you look at Louisiana, a lot of the names down there is Lafayette or Lafayette.
King Louis.
Yeah, but look at the name in itself, Faye. The fairies, Faye. So you can go with that,
right, throughout history.
You could take it that angle too.
Well, and Lauren Coleman's pointed that stuff out as being the whole Lafayette's and being associated with the mounds and the root of that name being in the Fae.
Yeah, it's a continue. What the Society of Cincinnati was doing was basically a continuation, in my opinion, of what older orders have been doing for a very long time.
Oh, for sure.
Do you think this is the Order of the Quest?
Yeah, I do, and well, partially. Like there's a lot of there. It's a big trunk of a big tree that all these orders sort of branch off of, in my opinion. And for the longest time, when Manley P. Hall talked about the Order of the Quest, I thought that was a name that he was just giving them. I was like, he's identifying that this is a real group, and he's just choosing to title them Order of the Quest. I found out that no, there actually was an Order of the Quest in real life. So yeah, there's.
So who were these folks supposed to be?
Well,
Who?
I'd have to dig into I'm not an expert on the history of it, but I know that one of the Bushes was involved. The early Bushes, the guy who started the whole Bush sort of dynasty, if you want to call it that, before one of Prescott Bush's ancestors in Ohio was a member of the Order of the Quest. And he set up some sort of the family business, whatever it was, where they made a bunch of money. He's one of the guys who got the Bush family on the map and rich. He was Order of the Quest.
I think it was a
Manley
railroad.
P. Hall's an interesting character. Oh, go ahead,
Yeah, and it was Bill Cooper that brought out some of this evidence about the Bush family being involved with the Order of the Quest.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. So you see this interesting tie with research. You see Manley P. Hall talking about the Order of the Quest, and then you see Bill Cooper later talking about the Order of the Quest. And I'm assuming that
like the modern age occult scholar, right? I mean, he was a 33rd degree Freemason, right? But he was also
later, right?
Later,
I think he was later in life, allegedly, because he was a Rosicrucian. So
right, say Rosicrucian, Theosophical Society. I mean, he's kind of doing
same
all,
shit.
Right?
So I don't know how much. He's kind of one of those authors you can't take everything at face value too. You know what I mean? You kind of got to look through his Gnostic lens and see what he was seeing.
Well, I'll tell you what Ed Sanders was seeing through Ed Sanders' lens, author of The Family. They studied the Manson family in the process. One of the the best sources of real-time investigations, not only the Manson family, but the process associations with the Manson family. He did all of his investigation contemporary to all that, 70 through 74. But he says that Manley P. Hall was a top suspect to be the head of the four Pi cult offshoot of the process.
Wait, say that again? He said what?
Manley P. Hall was allegedly the leader, the Grand Chingon, as they would call him, the title that was attributed to Manson. But this Grand Chingon character was apparently the head of this 4 Pi cult movement off of the process.
So Manley was allegedly involved with the Process Church. Is that?
Yeah. Well, we already know he's got connections tertiarily through Sirhan attending his PRS society down there in Los Angeles. And Sirhan was documented by INS and FBI as attending process church sex magic parties. That sounds like a fun time. He's just at Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski's house. So we know the Sirhan connection between those two parties. Those are what I like to call them known knowns. But yeah, I mean, outside of some of Sanders' allegations, those are the only things I've seen of Manley P. Hall's connections to the process. But he makes a good argument.
Well, what was Sirhan's involvement with Manley P. Hall? I think I missed that part.
He just attended the PRS. The
PRS. That's right. Okay.
What's he called? The Philosophical Research Society.
Yeah, it's in California. Philosophical Research Society.
It's not that far from Parsons' old spot in Pasadena.
No, it's not. I don't think it's too far from the Rosicrucian Museum out there either. Now, in all fairness, let me just mention this: many people did attend those PRS lectures. He did them every Sunday morning. He charged $1 for entry, and a lot of people came through there. So
like Manson family member Elvis Presley.
Right. I would say that just because, and this is just not in response to anything you just said. This is just me putting it out on the table. I would say that just because somebody went to some of his lectures doesn't necessarily implicate Manley P. Hall in their doings.
Oh, no, not at all. No.
And I know you're not saying that, but
no, no, I'm just saying that we know that Sirhan and Manley P. Hall would have at least had a chance to encounter one another. Sirhan was a what do they call them? What's the outer ring and recruits for the process? I don't forget their stupid terminology at the moment, but they have different terminology, for recruits and whatnot. It'd be interesting if he was a recruit and he's being shipped to those lectures to meet Manley P. Hall, right?
Well, dude, the Getty family got all his stuff after he died.
You mean the Society of Cincinnati family out of Pennsylvania, huh? That's weird.
So, it's...
Oh, they got Manley P. Hall stuff?
Like 200.
They basically run California.
They pretty much ran Manley P. Hall's pockets for all his work.
Who was the two? Who were the two rich ladies who put him up? Who put Manley P. Hall up? Because for people listening, he got into the esoteric at a very young age. They say that when he was like 7 or 8, he was reading Blavatsky and understanding it and like digesting it in a meaningful way. He got it started early with understanding the occult, and by the time he was, I think he was a teenager, and he was out talking or doing something, and he got noticed by these two rich ladies, and they offered to put him up. They're like, "We'll give you an allowance every month, a monthly allowance of all this money. You just keep doing what you're doing." So his origin story. It's a big factor in his origin story that these two rich ladies, and I just don't remember what the name of their last name was, but that'd be interesting.
Yeah, his father was a dentist. I did not know that. That's creepy as fuck, dude. Dentists are creepy.
Does it say on here?
There's this weird epicenter of spooks, hypnotists, and dentists. Some of them went for all three, I believe. There's a couple of them that come to mind. My brain home at the moment, whose names that are escaping me, but they were friends with. They're around the scene, around the Manley P. Hall scene. All of these folks were around the Manson scene. So it's interesting where all these things do intersect. But dentists practice medieval torture tactics, if you ask me.
Man, and this is just across California, across the boards, from early Hollywood until now. It has always been a sort of quiet occult mecca, and people in Hollywood know this. Like, if you get into some of these biographies of these people who have made their careers in Hollywood, they always nod to this, say something, or they'll just straight up outright acknowledge it. Like, it is one of the most occult places on earth. It really is.
And this guy certainly helped contribute to that, because that PRS was a major epicenter. It still is a major epicenter of activity.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Manley's he's a complicated guy. It's kind of hard to put your finger on where he was with many things. It's like,
that's true.
Yeah. He was a Mason, but he was also sort of inducted in. It's like they welcomed him in. He didn't necessarily set out to ever be a Mason. He was allowed to be a Mason, but of course, by the time he got involved with the Masons, he already knew all the information.
And a lot of that stuff he even wrote, dude. A lot of the current Freemasons, they don't read any of that shit. They don't know who Manley P. Hall is. I've educated some high-ranking Freemasons on the topic.
No doubt.
Well,
I mean,
it's interesting. Kenneth Anger used to hang out here until his last days. This was his normal daily hangout.
Who was it? Kenneth
Anger, the Crowleyite. Bobby Bushley's girlfriend.
That's exactly what I'm talking about right there, JJ. When I say Hollywood is this mecca for occultism, it's because of early people like Kenneth Anger. And you do a 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon type of a setup and just take Bacon out and put Kenneth Anger in, you'd be surprised to how many people he's connected with. Kenneth Anger.
Oh man, again, yeah, he used to bang Bobby Beausoleil in the house next door into Anton LaVey gang down there in the Hayden-Ashbury regions. I think it was actually part of San Francisco, but nonetheless.
Kenneth Anger was connected to Mick Jagger and other rock stars. They all would go through and sort of talk to him. It's interesting to go through and look at all the big I mean, people more famous than Kenneth Anger, even, who were definitely like neck deep in this Hollywood occult scene. I mean, A-list actresses as well.
Yeah, there's an A-list actress for you right there, Tom Cruise. And, but in regards to Hollywood and the epicenter of activity, the leader of Scientology, David Miscavige, lives in a penthouse apartment on Hollywood, and I believe Hollywood and Vine.
And I don't think a lot of people quite understand this. At least I don't hear it being talked about a lot. But Scientology goes back to Crowley. Like L. Ron Hubbard was very. I mean, he was very influenced by Crowley. He based the whole thing off of Crowley with other things. He was. No, let's be fair here. He didn't just base the whole operation off Crowley magic, but he based a lot of it off Crowley magic.
Well, given the way all this Crowleyism is bifurcated and all these splintered groups, right? Even the process coming off of Scientology. So they're, OTO, Agape Lodge, then Scientology, then the process, right? And then all these neo-process offshoots, whether it's Victorianism, which was run by the National Security Advisor's fucking assistant, J.J. Bryan, the Mormon National Security Advisor, General Brent Scowcroft, Henry Kissinger's right-hand man, literally. So we see kind of the epicenter of this occultism and national security there as well. And it's seemingly all around these ancient alien cargo cults, be it the Mormons or Scientology, and or both. But I think part of the thing in the OTO there is, this is my take on it, is you start your own shit. And all these people have this very egotistical. Right. Whenever they get into that OTO stuff, it's all whether it's the modern day offshoots again of Church of Satan or Temple Set. It's all very egotistically driven. So, but given a few years, you have all of these people starting their own version of that, right? And they have it with the Temple of Set, you have it with the Church of Satan, and it's all driven on ego, in my opinion, and it's driven by their system, which promotes that ego, right?
Mm-hmm. Here's a quick list I was able to find, and I'm with you, man. I think that there's a lot of. It's like they pick one sort of avenue. Or one sort of person like Crowley, build a foundation, and you start including all this other stuff. I mean, this is what the Thule or the Thule Society of Germany did. It was two guys. It was Walter Neuhaus and Rudolf von Sabbatendorf that started that, and they were in collectively no less than 10 other occult orders. These guys were major occultists. This is early 1900s Germany. Okay, turn of the century. They take all those influences, put them together, and they start the Thule Society, and have this major influence in Germany. The Thule Society slowly sort of starts becoming this quiet political machine. It's churning politically quietly, until it's not anymore, and it becomes the German Workers' Party, and then it becomes the Nazi Workers' Party, or the Nazi Party itself.
I mean, it sounds better than the Mormons to me, man. I mean, especially their political influence, their spies, their occultism, their white nationalism, right?
Right. To your point, though, it started out with these guys taking a couple influence. It was an amalgamation.
Yeah, they always mash it together, dude. And I think that's what Joseph Smith did in many respects, and his theology as well. But
do you think that's intelligence behind that, or do you think that's just?
I think it's a lack of intelligence, but I mean,
do you think there's? I mean, for sure, there's intelligence operations going on within these groups.
Intelligence, but I'm tracking.
Yeah. So, I'm saying, do you think they start because are they?
I think they start for the purpose of. Yeah, I think they start for the purpose of a nice cover story in many respects.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Oh, here's one of the names I was trying to remember earlier from old A-list Hollywood, Jane Mansfield.
Yeah, she married a Yonkers politician.
She was New York. Very close to Antoine LaVey.
Big time.
He was coming over to her house to do rituals, and they said it was this very strange dichotomy because James Mansfield had everything sort of done up in pink. She had she was like a blonde bombshell, and she had pink all over the place in her house. And then here comes LaVey all decked out in black, doing rituals with this lady wearing all pink. And they said it was just this very strange, but she was all about it. And she ended up dying in a car crash because Well, they say because LaVey put a curse on her husband or lover at the time.
Yeah, LaVey said he put it on her. Yeah.
Well, he didn't like the boyfriend or the husband, and he put it on him, I thought, and told her, "Hey, stay away from him because I just put this curse on him."
And then I had to go back, but that happened just outside of New Orleans. I covered it on my Thursday show.
Yeah, dude, that's right. They were on like a highway down there, and they got in a car accident. They got ran over by a semi truck.
They allegedly decapitated.
Yeah, they say allegedly decapitated her, and then some other accounts say that it was just her wig that flew off. But apparently, she had been in 5, 6 other car accidents right before that one. Like this, it was weird like that. It was like, okay, did this guy really put a curse on them because they had survived? This was like the 7th car accident or something. It finally,
she was close with Anton LaVey. There's pictures of Marita Haggerty. That is her daughter, the star of Law and Order, with Anton LaVey and her mother. So I mean, they were definitely tight.
Mm-hmm. You've long had Elvis Presley. Allegedly he was tied to some occult things. Allegedly.
Oh no, dude, he was definitely I mean, he was Manson. Manson tells a story how he kicked Elvis out on his ass on his front yard of his Bel Air mansion in the summer of '67 for 2 weeks because he wanted to. So Elvis had a personal spiritual guide. That man was previously the co-owner of the not Bobby Bosley, co-owner of the Lord of Mercy. I can't think of the name of the hair salon. Homeboy that dies in the murders there. I can't think of it at the moment. In his hair salon. Jay Sebring. So Scientologist Jay Sebring, his business partner quit, which is really a drug trafficking operation. He was a drug trafficker at the Stars, there in hair salon to the Stars. He's the guy who's infamous behind Jim Morrison's infamous, Rolling Stone look there on his hairstyle and his haircut and style on the Rolling Stone cover. But Jay Sebring's business partner, he quit and became Elvis Presley's personal spiritual guide. So Elvis was all up in that same social circle for sure. And after the murders, Elvis hired armed security to travel with him 24/7.
Bowie, if we're talking about male rock stars, but Bowie was, he almost to his detriment, he got involved with, they said it was drugs in the occult that just about killed him. The first time, right? Like I know he's passed away at this point, but he, I don't know if he ever straightened out or what, but there was a lot of weird occult symbolism in his last songs too. Remember, he released a song right before he died.
Ziggy Stardust thing, right? I mean, that was pretty fucking in your face occultism, right? The man who fell from Earth or Mars or whatever the shit was. Man who fell to Earth, maybe.
If you look, and I don't remember her name, but it was his wife or girlfriend. She put out a biography. One of these biographies we're talking about. Black Star. That's it. Yeah, that's Black Star.
It was creepy shit.
Yeah, man. So his wife or girlfriend puts out a biography, and in that she talks about some of the occult things that were happening, and she talks about one scenario where they had to like rescue Bowie. He was hanging out with these witches that had, kidnapped him. I use that term loosely, but they were holding him up in a house, and he was on a coke bender as well. So I'm sure that didn't help. But they were trying to convince him to give them some of his, we'll just say, seed, because they wanted to create a moonchild, a David Bowie moonchild. Now, these were Hollywood occultists.
Isn't that what Melissa Etheridge did with David Van Cortlandt Crosby's sperm?
Yeah.
Trying to make some moonchild with some of that Dutch royal sperm. Well, I neglected, and I do apologize. I wanted to thank you both, you gents, for joining me here tonight to get a little GCD, and thank you, folks of the interwebs. Wanted to ask y'all I forgot to ask y'all what you're working on both your podcasts. But before we do that, let's take a quick intermission.
What's going on? Are you in some kind of trouble?
Listen, Kurt Cobain didn't kill himself.
You understand? He's not even dead. He and Vince Foster are living near Mount St. Helens.
You're kidding. Why?
It's not their idea. They're being blackmailed into it. But the man responsible's so rich, so powerful, he'll stop at nothing to make sure this information stays suppressed.
What's his name?
I can't tell you that. Bill Gates.
Bill Gates. What does he want from you?
My brain. I mean, he's already got half of it. I fell asleep at Newark Airport, and now I'm this close to taking my own life so that I can stop the apocalypse.
That Bill Gates, he's a real son of a bitch. He's on the hot seat these days.
STD Gates.
Yeah, we're talking about the show there, Landon. I don't buy that part of the Epstein emails. I think my position on the Epstein email is more of a, standard disinformation campaign. You're going to have truth, and you're speculating in with a bunch of nonsense. I don't believe for a second that Bill Gates, who manufactures pharmaceuticals on at least 3 different continents that I'm familiar with, would have to call Jeffrey Epstein to get himself some STD meds. The man makes the medicine.
Right. What do you think, Tim? Me and JJ are on the same boat.
I saw something today, and I wasn't able to verify it, but it did catch my eye. There's some rumbling online that Bill Gates has made a sort of a secret deal with the USDA to start putting mRNA into the food.
Oh yeah.
At this point in time, I would be surprised.
At this point, sure. I have no doubt that he's doing that at this point.
Well, he's banned from importing any sort of vaccines, I believe, into India because he killed too many people with the polio vaccine.
Yeah. I would love to say with confidence that his time is running out, and unfortunately, these people just seem to be able to just keep going with their diabolical schemes without any repercussions whatsoever.
For sure. So before we go any further, fellas, what's new with the Sixth Century podcast, Tim? See you posting a lot of Instagram clips. I got your links to your podcast and your Instagram in the show notes already, but I see you're doing some clip heavy stuff. I appreciate that when I can't watch a whole show. I like to see what you're talking about. Got some interesting topics.
Cool. Thanks, man. Yeah, we've one of the things we've done is I tried to make the clips a little bit longer, so you do get more of a snapshot into whatever we happen to be talking about. So I appreciate you noticing that, man, picking that up. Like I said, for people listening, it's Sixth Century Podcast. I spell it out SIX. A lot of hidden history stuff on deck for this year. A lot more conspiracy stuff. I'm gonna be, like I said, man, I've got a lot of information that I'm wanting to put out this year, and it's just a matter of time, getting it all together and putting it out in a cohesive way so people can so it'll resonate with people and everything. But I got a lot, man. I mean, we're talking about hidden history stuff. I got plenty.
Yeah, I saw you and Landon recently did a podcast together talking some hidden history stuff.
Which one did we do?
Well, we did. A third party on there on the clip I saw recently on Tim's Instagram.
Oh, it's probably Ernie from Virginia's for Conspiracy Lovers, and we were getting into. We got into a lot of Etruscan, Phoenician type stuff, which
it was way out of my wheelhouse. I don't know that deep. I'm learning, but that was way out of. I never heard the Etruscans or none of that stuff, so I was just observing.
Well, it's hard not to see the connections of the Phoenician enterprises, but even in our alphabet.
Oh yeah,
the Phoenician
phonetics.
There you go. Pretty fundamental in our culture, the Phoenician impact. So to say the Phoenicians have no impact, which is general, science folks and history, standard history folks' opinions are oh yeah, Phoenicians, they were a culture way over there, a long time ago. It's Star Wars. And a place far, far away and a long, long time ago. That's the way they act about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you said that you had been looking into Louisiana, New Orleans, or since you're poking around down there, I've got some stuff I could mention on that. One thing that comes to mind, and I could tie the Etruscans into this as well. Etruscans being this very mysterious group from history that they built Rome before the proper, built Rome before it was Italian. Just say it like that.
Well,
So
they
if
were
you go,
building culture too, weren't they? After in conjunction with or alongside the Scythians.
I think so. I think they were putting some sort of mounds there in Rome. Possibly. I'm not, possibly. Yeah.
I believe they exist alongside the Scythians in that region, who were also mound building culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They built the first capital that we based our Capitol building off of. Jefferson was aware of them, and that was the inspiration behind our Capitol building. They called it Decapitol.
Okay.
They used divination. So here's the story behind it, and this is the story. I don't know how accurate this is, but the story goes that the Etruscans, when they were laying the foundation for the first Capitol building in Rome, they were such high practicing sorcerers. They were incorporating rituals into the building of this thing, and they were using divination. And one of their methods for divination was to decapitate people. Decapito. So later, when they went and looked at this building, they found only severed heads in the foundation where the Etruscans were doing divinatory magic to build it. And the story goes is that that's how it got its name, Decapito or decapitate. Now, I don't know. I don't know if that's 100% true, but they did build the building and they did cut people's heads off in the process.
So they got Roman citizenship in 90 BC. Okay. Now I'd be curious to know where some of this intersects with it again. So I think, even though the Society of Cincinnati, goes, their descent from the Templars and stuff, they venerate a man named Lucius Quintus Cincinnatus. That's the name of their society. And he was the man who saved the Roman Republic a few hundred years before that, about 400 years before, they were, brought into the Roman Republic. But nonetheless, I think there is a throughput of bloodlines from Cincinnatus down through the Templars and into the Society of Cincinnati. I think Cincinnatus is a member of their heritage within those bloodlines. So I'd be interested to know where something like that. Because where does Jefferson get that? I mean, all the founding fathers are already look at Trump's new wing of the White House. He's still doing it too. They're building in the Greek revival architecture.
Right. Yeah, they were clued in, and yeah, I think what I said earlier was
these Etruscans were Greeks, though, right? Didn't they speak Greek?
They had a different
language. Maybe they had a different language.
They had their own language, because I said earlier, I said Italian. I meant to say Roman. Before the Etruscans were there before it was Rome. It was Rome proper with Romans. Now,
were they part of the old Greek Empire there then? I guess I don't know enough about this culture.
If you go back and read some of the old historians, they talk about how in Rome they were still teaching kids how to read Etruscan in early Rome. So it literally just merged into Rome.
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a variation of ancient Greek. It says, like Athens, Euboea had a form of lambda that resembled the Latin form of sigma. But
they weren't
Greek. What is it?
They weren't necessarily Greek.
The language in the alphabet, their Uoba alphabet. Oh, was I not sharing that? My mistake.
Yeah.
Their Uoba alphabet is similar in nature to ancient Greek.
But to something else you were saying, the Romans, so the culture, the Etruscan thing, for whatever reason, just started dying out. They stopped teaching the kids how to speak it and all that, but they still had their magic books. So the Romans were able to, and I imagine all this is in private collections today, if any of it survives, but the Romans still had their magic books. That would have been one possible avenue for our founding fathers to have connections to this, was within the mystery schools that still had the Etruscan magic books. And the not just the magic books, but the practices. I'll give you an example. In New Orleans, we have Mardi Gras. Everybody knows that. There's also another festival called Lupercalia, if I'm saying that correctly. And I wasn't familiar with this until recently. It's basically, I think these festivals are memories of rituals, and the practice has been modernized and watered down, and now it's a festival where it used to be a full-blown ritual. It's just a distant memory of the old world. At this point, we call it a festival, but it used to be called Febra or Februalis, which is associated with Juno, who is the patron deity of February. And you look back at some of these, okay, Virgil, for instance, it was a contemporary of Virgil named Ovid who traced the word February or Februalis back to the Etruscans. So if February was
actually
an
Etruscan version of that, of Juno, is what it sounds like.
Yeah. So in February, to the Etruscans, February was their word for purging. So it's like, there you go with that movie, The Purge, right? Did they have some sort of a weird holiday like that in real life? And here's your stronger tide, though, to the modern world. One of the goddess symbols for Juno is the fleur-de-lis, which, if anybody's ever been to New Orleans, you know that fleur-de-lis is everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And Juno's also Juno's Hera, which I think might be the Roman equivalent, or to Juno was, I guess if she was Etruscan, I think Hera was the Roman or the Greek, and she had like a lotus tip scepter. So you got a lot of flower symbolism associated with Easter and spring alongside of this goddess.
I was going to say that, Tim. Easter and Ishtar.
That's right. Interesting with the fleur-de-lis. I brought a couple thoughts to mind. What were you saying, Landon? I apologize, sir. What was that?
Oh, I was just waiting to say that.
Yeah, you're spot on, Landon. You're spot on. The Ishtar Easter Ostara connection is totally there, because Juno / Hera, her daughter is Ray. Ray's always been long connected. Sorry, my alarm just went off. Long connected to Ishtar.
Well, that's interesting. Hold that thought, gents. Hold that thought. We have a special moment here in Operation GCD Live. Our channel, good to see you, fucking Muppet. I missed you like a fucking sailor.
Oh, there he is. Or I don't want to be sexist. It might be a she.
I don't know. It's a bot. It's my favorite CIA AI bot.
They
Kobe ball washer. Tell your Muppets at Langley to go fuck themselves, bud.
Sadly,
this is also a moment where I agree with the comment our channel makes, so I'm upset with myself in life.
Oh, is this an androgynous bot? Speaking of the ancient goddesses,
it's JJ, man. I'm telling you.
Some folks think it's me.
It's JJ.
So, Landon, what's new with the Daily Dissident there, bud? What are you working on over there?
Yeah, I'm trying to get some. There's a couple water experts that I'm trying to get on to kind of go over some of the stuff going on in West Virginia. So and I'm thinking about
Virginia, sir.
Yeah, I got a stabilizer, so I might start a little documentary on the side of going down there and trying to get some interviews and stuff.
Well, that'd be interesting.
Yeah,
I've got a topic that you've been interested in. Is it something you're getting into now? Is it something you've been interested in a while?
No, I was back about 2024. I kind of came to a note of it, specifically in Wyoming County. But yeah, it was weird how it kind of played out. But I was just like trying to figure out what would be my way to go about, how to do it. Because I emailed a guy who actually, if you're familiar with the movie Dark Waters, he was the lawyer in that movie that they won the lawsuit against DuPont for the Parkersburg incident in West Virginia. So it's kind of a long line. And this whole, what was the train derailment not too long ago, JJ, up there in
East
Palestine, coming down there on the Ohio River, which, West Virginia's been at the crude neck of water terrorism, as me and JJ were discussing earlier. What were we calling it?
Dude, I stayed over in West Virginia a couple nights in recent years, but in the wintertime, a couple different nights. And I woke up one morning, this must have been last January, and the residue on my car from what appeared to be sleet was oily, dude. I don't know what was going on with it, man. It was weird.
Man, it's yeah, but that's kind of what's been going on lately there, and just going.
Well, that's some dark waters right there, because whatever's going on in the water and soil in West Virginia these days, whatever the fuck they're dumping, is producing some oily sleet, dude. I've never seen anything like it before.
it's not good, man. And I have family that still lives there, so I have to care. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it has been a long. Like West Virginia's been used as the fucking
Used and
dumping
abused.
ground and test bed for Washington D.C. fucking creepy shit, like
Eco
Epstein level
terrorism.
creepy shit.
Thank you, PT Thomas. That's what I was trying to spit out. Eco
Oh
terrorism.
man, they got tunnels running from DC up into those hills in West Virginia. No doubt, there's all manner of diabolical stuff happening under those hills.
Still are, dude. They were running lobotomies there until the 50s.
Yeah, dude, that was going on in Weston there in the insane asylum. I need to do an episode on that because I haven't seen much of that. So I that's kind of on my docket too. You just reminded me to write that down.
There you go.
They sent Rockefeller. They sent Rockefeller up there in the late '60s and let it be a testing ground.
Him and Bird, man.
That's why we had Jay Rockefeller the third there, right, for the longest time.
What was his name?
Well, they owned Ashland, Kentucky in large part with their Standard Oil.
You said Western Kentucky, most of what?
No, Ashland, Kentucky. That was the Rockefeller started town with the Standard Oil. I think even Granddaddy Bush was there at one point in time. Samuel Bush.
Ashland, Kentucky has a statue of Venus down there by the river too.
Yeah, it's
the goddess.
Little mountain town.
Yeah. Can we jump back into that real quick, Tim and JJ? I had a question about Apollo. Like it's like this Apollo religion, right? The star religion that we were just talking about. It's crazy, man. When you start, the name references and all, it's insane.
Well, you'll have to tell me what you mean by star religion. But first, off the bat, what comes to mind is the 5-pointed star of Venus. Is it related to that?
That's what I was going to say. There you go. So are you my brain hole, Tim? Because
the Star Force.
Walter talks about all these Templar family bloodlines being the Venus families. They all venerate.
Right.
Back to the old star alignments of the Templar, constructions and forts and castles.
This Venus ties directly into something I'm working on and I'm about to put out. Yeah. There's all over the place, but definitely down in the Gulf, since we've been talking about that area. Mississippi, Texas, Louisiana. There are a number of star forts that have 5 stars, and I'm making the connection between. I think they were giving them 5 stars because they were associated with the Venus families, and it was a nod to their goddess, the great goddess Venus, and that's why they made the star forts have 5 stars. And then later secret societies, after our nation was formed, would come in and hold secret meetings inside of the ruins of these star forts. So there's a lot to it.
That one in the Keys, Tim. What's that one down there in the Florida Keys? That big brick one. That one's crazy. They built during the Civil War, or allegedly.
You're talking about. I know you're talking about. You're talking about where they held Dr. Samuel Mudd of the Lincoln conspiracy, sir.
Yeah,
you're talking about the dried Tortugas.
Yeah.
And on that note, hold that thought, sir, because I'm glad you brought up the Lincoln conspiracy. Time to play my favorite game here, Operation GCD Fridays. Who is your daddy? What does he do?
You tell me, who is your daddy and what does he do?
Hey, real quick, can I just throw something in to tie in with what we were just saying?
Sure.
The guy who built that big structure Landon's talking about that's down in the Gulf.
The dry Tortugas?
Yeah, they credit that with a guy named Joseph Totten, and I think it's falsely credited to him. He's a guy they brought in. Yeah, this one. Some of the records suggest that it was Joseph Totten who built this. What they were doing was, and I think this is matters of
that's it.
Society. This is matters of of Society of Cincinnati stuff right here. They were getting their guy to come in and claim that he built this so that they could in turn cover up the history, because they took Joseph Totten, They credited him with this one, and they also credited him with the one in New York City called Castle Clinton. That was a star for it.
Yeah.
It was these places where I'm telling you, these places were around before Totten was even born. So there's some.
Oh, this is old, sir. I've been here. It's real old.
Yeah.
No, they built it in 2 weeks, JJ. They built it in 2 weeks, man.
Yeah,
they got all those bricks. They got all those bricks there.
You got to take an hour. Like I camp there. You can camp there. It's a national park. Dry Tortugas National Park. That's Fort Jefferson, but the Dry sits in Dry Tortugas National Park. It's not an easy boat ride there, dude. It's some little bit of rough waters through that little stretch. You know, it's not. You know, how you transferring all that weight out there, dude.
Yeah, oh man, you got Fort Jackson too. Fort Jackson is a five-pointed star fort in right down there below New Orleans.
What is it called? Can we pull that up? Fort what, Jackson?
Well, yeah. let's finish playing this game. Did you miss it, Landon? Who was your daddy? What was he doing? Did you miss it? No, you stepped away. Did you see the picture?
Yes. Yeah. Who was it?
Well, that is supposedly Abraham Lincoln's daddy. Right, one Thomas Lincoln. He looks nothing like him, right? In my opinion. Well, and then there's a history out of that same area of North Carolina we were talking about at the start of tonight's show. I want to thank you folks again for joining us here tonight to get a little GCD. Circling back to where we started off earlier, gents, we're talking about that area of North Carolina near Rowan County, Cherokee, North Carolina, where basically all of my heritage is from, all of my Appalachian family pole derives from, is this fellow right here by the name of Wesley Inlow. His father was a guy by the name of Abraham Inlow. Abraham Inlow was the employer of one Hanks, Nancy Hanks, the mother of Abraham Lincoln. She was the housemaid at the Inlow house, and she got fired. And according to Abraham Inlow's son, that's this fellow here on the left, Wesley Inlow, back in 1934, was interviewed for a book saying it's basically family knowledge that Nancy Hanks was impregnated by the housemaid, was knocked up by his father, the owner of the property, and then that's why they kicked him out of it.
She got knocked up, and that dude looks like trans Lincoln, by the way.
Dude, look at this guy, dude. Look how lanky and exactly like Abraham Lincoln his brother looks to him. You know what I mean?
Dude's probably a Nephilim, if we're being honest.
I mean, that's right, dude. They're an oddly tall and odd-looking bunch, but Wesley Inlow said in 1899, I was born after the incident between my father, that's this guy on the left, between my father and Nancy Hanks. I have, however, a vivid recollection of hearing the name Nancy Hanks frequently mentioned when I was a boy. No, I've never heard my father mention it. He was always silent on the subject so far as I knew. I have no doubt, though, that the cause of my father sending her to Kentucky is the one generally alleged. So this, in that area of North Carolina and amongst the Inlow clan, has long been accepted as Abraham Lincoln's an Inlow, not Lincoln.
Yeah, I looked into it briefly for something a while back, and the Lincoln is directly, he's a bloodline. He's connected to the bloodlines back in Europe, the royalty.
Well, so are the Hanks family.
Yeah, and we know those go way back. Those go back to the Middle East and all that.
And we know the Lincoln family's in the same area. Captain Abraham Lincoln of the Virginia chapter of the Society of Cincinnati, President Abraham Lincoln's paternal grandfather was a scout. So he's up there. He's amongst the same crew as Boone and Abner Vance and a lot of these what would be the later generation of Davy Crockett. Another guy by the name of Lincoln Blevins. Not a forefather of mine, but in my family poll, my Appalachian family poll. These folks were all the frontiersmen, and also the Maynard boys. The 5 Maynard boys were the first quote unquote white folk there across the west of the Appalachians.
And that's
I have heritage in 3 of those 5 Maynard boys, and
that's Hatfield.
Chuck has 2 of those 5. Chuck Manson, that is. So,
is that right, JJ? That's the McCoy side, right? The Hatfield.
Yeah, that's where the McCoys come from. Is that those Maynards? So those Maynards again. This is the same Maynard boys that one of them allegedly kills Blackbeard. Back to them pirates we mentioned before.
And where's he get dropped at? That's OBA. Does he get dropped in the OBA in Outer Banks?
Yeah, it's somewhere in that coastal Carolina region. I think it might be a little bit further south. But
Ernie mentioned that when they they had his head, they were running it through there at William and Mary University, and was that's not Richmond, right? Is that Richmond?
It's all bloodlines. So no, William and Mary. That's
Harrison, Williamsburg, or
Williamsburg.
Yeah, Williamsburg.
That's Williamsburg. Sorry.
So
but it's
the
all bloodline shit.
it's all bloodline stuff. And on that note, Lincoln was directly related to King Edward I Plantagenet of England. King Edward Plantagenet I of England. And so you look into the Plantagenet line, you're going to find some stuff because that's a very old bloodline, and it's no coincidence that all these guys are bloodlines. All the American presidents except for one.
I thought it was 2.
That's right. And his wife was the member of the family, Martin Van Buren's wife.
Yeah,
she was a member.
Oh yeah, so the wife was the bloodline in that case.
Yeah.
Dude.
Well, yeah, they did originally.
And Martin Van Buren got brought up under Aaron Burr, so he was already in that kind of that whatever that is, Tammany Hall mix. He was and he brings up Samuel Tilden under as his protege. He would be the one that ended the Civil War through the Great Compromise of 1877. So we can see that anti-liberty faction throughout many decades there in the 19th century, doing the same anti-liberty, anti-American shit.
So let me get this straight. The one president who wasn't a member of a bloodline, his wife was.
Yeah, his kids are.
So what was the deal there? Like she's supposed to rule vicariously through him? Is that like?
Yeah, I think it's probably one of those. I think this is probably one of those deals where he's not a maid. He's kind of more of a maid man, right? He's not part of the family, but they make him into the family. Almost like Italian mafia style, I think. Because from a very young age, Van Buren was part of Tammany Hall. I think he was associated with him as early as 10 or 12, like being a little bitch boy for
him. The reason that they only knew because they were only going through the father's bloodline. A lot of the early research and up until recently, really, when people started, it became common knowledge, throughout conspiracy and stuff, is because they started doing genealogy through the mother's lineage. I just found that weird that they were only going through the fathers. I guess, I just found that odd.
The mother, it's a maternal line for the president. For the male presidents, it's a maternal bloodline, correct? Yeah.
I mean, it seems to be a heavily factor in that if you look at it. Yeah, I mean, it seems to be a big factor because we don't have. Admittedly, there's only allegedly been one paternal member of the Society of Cincinnati that was a president. And
wait. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just want to say, I think I may have got that backwards. I think the maternal line is active and activated heavily in British Royal Society, and over here it seems like a male maternal line. That's right? I
don't know, because again, you look at it and there's not been any paternal or hereditary members of the Society of Cincinnati that have been president. Abraham Lincoln, despite his paternal grandfather being a captain and original member out of Virginia, that didn't get past. His father was the third son in that bloodline, Abraham's father. So didn't get passed down to that wing. So it does seem like, to a certain degree, for example, look at the Bush's mother. The Pierces have a much stronger, despite the Samuel Bush being the VP of Rockefeller Steel, Prescott Bush's father, the Pierce family has a much stronger hold in American politics. You can say the same thing for why JFK Jr. had to be taken out, because his mother's father was a member of the Society of Cincinnati, and he was a hereditary member, I do believe, JFK Jr.
So he's not being resurrected?
He's still alive. Trust the plan. Yeah, trust the plan.
Hey, so here's the question then. So like Lincoln's bloodline, we could trace it back to Edward of Plantagenet. Like the question would be was Edward of Plantagenet, is that a maternal bloodline? Is that?
I think so. Doesn't all that tie into the whole Cathar, going back kind of the Cathar mysteries there in France, and also tie into these Da Vinci Code style bloodlines of Jesus and Mary? Isn't that the Plantagenets that eventually that's a descendant from that same bloodline, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I still have a lot of work to do with the bloodline. I've done enough.
I've looked into that, sir, because I'm part of that same mix. You know what I mean?
Sure.
On its face, at least I'm a Madison. Washington, much further back, I'm a Warner, as in Washington's maternal grandfather. And again, I do, it's my search in the advance is actually Washington, which kind of, ties in line with what I'm inferring there around Abraham Lincoln, is they'd be hiding their kids with other families, it seems at times. But if you look at that whole Da Vinci Code and these bloodlines of the plantagenets and everything else like that, you'll find the Priory of Sion. And I do believe this is a real organization, and they use that fleur-de-lis.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
There you go. I suspect that the infinity symbol, or something in that regard, or the magician's signature in some regard, and then there's the fleur-de-lis.
Yeah, and you notice at the bottom they've got it coming to 3 points. That could be one of those. That could be a symbolic of the goddess Trinity.
Sure.
As well.
Sure, it's certainly a stylized version of the fleur-de-lis. They've done a little bit of their own, characteristics to it for sure.
Right, could you pull that, Tim, could you reference that to, Jesus, God, and the Holy Ghost? That Trinity, or would it be different?
It would be the in my opinion, the counterfeit version of that. You have the dark forces that are trying to, and I'm not trying to get all woo-woo spiritual on you here, but from what I can tell, if there's a light force and if there's a dark force, you have the dark force taking elements of the light force and trying to make it their own. Right.
Right. I guess a spiritual hijack.
Yeah. Spiritually hijack. Yeah, for sure. And real quick, before you jump to that, JJ, I just looked up the Joseph Gilbert Totten guy that I was talking about. I just wanted to refresh my memory on him. He's the guy they say built the thing down there at Fort Jefferson and Castle Clinton. He was a regent of the Smithsonian Institution. I'd forgotten about that. There you go, right? He's a co-founder of the National Academy of Sciences, and he was a member of the American Philosophical Society. Yeah. He's also so remember when we talked about the Society of Cincinnati and then we talked about the Cosmos Club, which was John Wesley Powell's club, and how everybody in that club were these highfalutin DC guys. They were all in the National Academy of Sciences. They were in the American Philosophical Society. They were all associated with the Smithsonian. This is how they did one of the biggest coup d'etats, and this is how they took over the narrative in the 1880s. Sure. Was they took all these very important people in DC and let them just have it. Like whatever you say goes. Whatever you say is what we'll teach in the schools.
I think you're spot on. So I think it speaks to that factional warfare again. Because we have the Smithsonian started by the Society of Cincinnati, and then you have the American Philosophical Society, which is actually started by members of the Society of Cincinnati who were part of an early coup against George Washington.
Right.
So we see that factional divide again right there among some of these, organizations that they create in which to then engage in their activities.
So problem, action, solutions, Hegelian dialect, right?
To a certain respect, sure, yeah.
Well, that's what they're doing manipulating a lot of shit. Present day,
Yeah. Well, we have a lot of these organizations that manipulate a lot of shit. I do think the Priory of Sion's a real thing. So we get this guy, Andrew Michael Ramsey. He was best friends with 2 members. He was allegedly a member of the Priory of Sion there in the early 18th century there in France. He's the guy that introduces Scottish Freemasonry to France. He's the guy that brings it there. And he's best friends with Sir Isaac Newton and Alexander Pope, 2 other alleged members of the Priory of Sion at the time, the leaders, in fact. And those are his best friends. So I think to a certain degree, I think these things are real. I don't know exactly their end game, but I do think it is as described. They're protecting these bloodlines we're talking about. This Plantagenet bloodline, this Jesus and Mary bloodline of the Templars.
Pull that back up. Pull that back up, JJ. I want to make a point with what you're saying here with this guy, Ramsey.
Well, you go ahead, sir. I'll bring this back to Jeffrey Epstein here in a second. But go ahead, sir.
Okay, all right. Sorry, I'll just make this quick.
You're fine.
I see where you're going with that now, so I'll let you take it. But let me just add something to what you're saying here. You said he was friends with Isaac Newton, and I just want to point out that I looked at this guy's time here. You know, I'm looking at his birthday and his death date. And 1686, he was born right into the time zone where the occult and science merged.
Yep.
That started in 1666 with the British Royal Society. That's when the seance became science. They took the occult, they took alchemy, and they turned it into this other thing, and they made it this humanistic thing, and they tried to take all the spiritual elements out of it. This guy was probably, I mean, if he was friends with Isaac Newton, he was probably one of the people involved with that.
Yeah, I mean, he was of the opposing sides of the British Empire at that time. I mean, I'd be interested to know where they intersect, because he was a Jacobite baron.
Oh, was he? Okay.
He was a baron in exile, essentially, right? Because this is after the death of King James, right? Then he's in exile, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's a Jacobite. So when the Catholic order took back over with King Charles there, Charles was James's son, then the Jacobites were trying to reinstitute James's grandson, right?
Hey, look, it says right there, both were elected fellows of the Royal Society. There you go. In December 7th.
There we go. Yep.
There it is, bro. December 1729, Ramsey becomes a member of, Fellows of the Royal Society.
So there we go. There's all his relations. Prominent members that included Sir Isaac Newton.
Yep.
That was the Society of Antiquaries of London.
That's what I'm talking about, man. I'm trying to tell y'all.
So I wonder, I'd like to see whatever they were working on within that Royal Society, because what he was doing in France at the time was very revolutionary.
Mm-hmm.
It is what leads to the French Revolution and the Society of Cincinnati over there. And it's epicenter with some of this magic stuff as well, and Freemasonry. But
was
also
I might have to.
What is it, sir?
I might have to listen back to this one and put some pieces together, man, and see what we can find here.
Here's my evidence that Priory Scion's real. I am descended allegedly on paper from 19 of those 25 Magna Carta Knights. And they all claim to be the descendants of this same bloodlines we were talking about, the planet of the Jeanettes and the Jesus and Mary bloodline. There is the Da Vinci Code tells. And I had an old friend of mine for over a decade in the Air Force, named after his forefather, Andrew Michael Ramsey. And he had a giant Priory Scion tattoo on his chest. So I'm just saying, I think these things are real. I think he was assigned to me, if you will. And his father, also named Andrew Ramsey as well, he was the treasurer for the school district for Les Wexner in New Albany, Ohio. And met Jeffrey Epstein numerous times when Jeffrey Epstein would drop off checks to the school district for Wexner's kids. So that you might have a Priory Scion guy operating with Jeffrey Epstein in that respect.
Trying to see back to your French Revolution point, wasn't that's where Hegelian dialect was mastered, right? That whole ordeal, or is that way before Hegel? How old is Hegel?
I suspect that's Babylonian old, man. You know what I mean? Who's John Coleman? I don't know who John Coleman is. I'll check that out, though. Thank you. I'm just saying, if Jeffrey Epstein's operating amongst interacting with a member of the Priory Scion, it's just a long list of other weird organizations and things this man has been operating in, right?
Right, and I think this goes back to everything. Yeah, it goes back to everything, and it goes back to something we were talking about earlier in the show, which we're talking about how Hollywood and the network of Hollywood is comprised of occultists doing occult stuff. That was Epstein's network too, and I think the more time we have to look into these Epstein files, the more secret society stuff you're going to find there. I mean, we already found one. It's the Zodiac Society. And I looked into that, and that's legit and also weird. And I wonder if there are Zodiac Society connections to the Zodiac Killer, because it goes back far enough in time. And also there's Federal Reserve ties to the Zodiac Society that Epstein was involved with. And that's just an example. There's other secret societies that are mentioned in there. I want to do something on it eventually.
The Trilateral Commission, right? Wasn't there some trilateral stuff in there? He wasn't even a member of that.
Yes, it's
That's the
tied
inner
in with
circle of the CFR. They have a swastika for a fucking logo, and it was
right.
created by the Rockefellers. So
That's the Rockefellers. I was going to say
yeah.
that's Rockefeller. That's Rockefeller.
Yeah, you know about the trilaterals. I mean, that's
Yeah.
a fucking that's a deep
Well,
state, deep state. That's the deep staters right there.
Yeah, and it's got there's the Bilderberg ties to that as well. And Bilderberg was started by a Nazi prince of Netherlands or wherever it was.
I think it was Netherlands, yeah.
Yeah,
and they're all Bavarian. We can say the Netherlands. These all the motherfuckers over there that call themselves Prince are all Bavarian.
Yeah, well, but here's the thing. What we're going to find is that I'm getting wild pop-ups on my computer right now, guys. Am I still with you?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. All right. Well, I lost my train of thought because something's trying to take over my network over here. But the more time we get with these Epstein files, I think we're going to see more of this. And some of these, there's these elite networks of elites within elite networks of elites, right? The societies, the secret societies, there's philanthropic societies, if I can say that word, embedded in the Epstein stuff. And what these people were doing was they were carrying on just like occultists. Like maybe they just are occultists, and maybe that's obvious, but they were getting dressed up in robes and doing chants and stuff like that. And some of these meetings that Epstein was a part of, they literally were wearing robes and doing chants and doing, if it looks like an occultist.
Deep occultist.
Right. And I heard somebody make the argument to that, Tim, and I thought it was pretty funny. It was like, what, like, you like the guy brought up the point, like, what you think that was kind of like based, like, like, look at me, I'm wearing this, this cost, like, you think, like, he was saying that you would think that that's what would happen. I mean, that's the obvious answer, but more in depth, as you're saying, it's way more esoteric than just what you're seeing. You know what I mean?
Well, Epstein used that same infinity symbol we see in the prior Scion. The infinity symbol was he signed everything in the magician's signature.
Isn't that who,
Epstein?
Yeah, look at his signature. It's all an infinity symbol.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Everything he signs is just the infinity symbol, and that's it.
Well, you think about it too. Epstein palled around with these bloodlines. Bloodlines,
that's what I'm saying.
Essentially made him.
Yeah. If Les Wexner,
I'm saying
Les Wexner was made by the intelligence agencies.
That too. There's
around with it. He's handing off checks to prior Scion. That's what I'm getting at, dude. He's dealing with the oldest of fucking secret societies. Forget ones that were born in 1783.
Right.
And look at these hearings they just had, or whatever these were. These interview and
show trial. Show trial.
How dare you, sir? That's legitimate. I can't even say that without laughing.
Look at just this whole thing lately with the Clintons, with them sitting down with Hillary and questioning her, and then sitting down with Bill and questioning him. And what does Bill say when he's asked about his connections to Epstein? He goes, it was more so I was more so friends with her. I think he was talking about Ghislaine, and he was saying the Rothschilds introduced us. He's like, I'm still very close with the Rothschilds. That was the connection. So again, I'm just saying, like, even they're telling us that it's bloodlines activity.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure the Rothschilds play a role in it, but Bill's you also have to understand you never.
Oh, dude, I do not discount the intelligence thing either. You're 100% on point with that.
Don't you think it's weird though?
Bill infamously, for those who are not familiar, in a deposition, try to redefine the word is. Says, well, that depends on what your definition of the word is.
Right. Well, that's what Epstein was saying in some of the emails, was that his point of contention with Bill because they were close, but what bugged him about Bill Clinton was that he was such a liar. Even Epstein himself said he lies too easily, talking about Bill Clinton.
Yeah, I think Wexner represents what we see with like a Clay Shaw character from the Permandex and JFK situation. We see Wexner sits in that same kind of epicenter of activity with the CIA, the mafia, and also some of the the Jewish interests, if you will, the Rothschild.
Apollo Global Management. Back to our Apollo.
Well, there you go. That's the next generation after Wexner. We see with Epstein and his buddy Leon Black. They're all these are all money launderers in the same franchise. And then their next generation we see with Sam Bankman-Fried, and that's why they were operating amongst each other up there in Idaho and Washington.
I read that SBF, when he had this was kind of weird that they were putting it out, but I forgot what stock it was, but he lost over like $400 billion or something because he had to I forgot the name of the stock. He had to relinquish his stocks whenever he got tied up, or quote unquote tied up. JJ, I don't know if you got any more updates on that, but they kind of swept that one under the rug pretty quick. So
yeah, that was a quick pass. And I don't think R. Murray's. I appreciate using your brain hole there, sir, for God's intended purposes. As we were kind of inferring this stuff before of it being just your standard disinformation campaign, where you're going to have a large percentage of valid information mixed in with a percentage of the other percentage of bullshit.
Ted Gunderson style, your favorite?
Yeah, laser tag Ted style, classic disinformation campaign. I don't think anything that's released should be looked at anything differently than classic disinformation campaign, unless proven otherwise. At this point, that's kind of where I say things. Because when you have an individual such as Hunter Biden and Joe Biden still running around this world undetained amongst not just the Clintons,
the artists,
something wrong with it, right? I'm telling you, you're in Delaware, you know what I'm talking about.
And Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Well, the only difference between crack cocaine and cocaine is sodium bicarbonate and water and heat. Literally, that's it.
And those things are pretty much free if you go to like a science store.
And Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Support your local science store, folks. That interview where he's talking about making crack was the beginning of the interview started off with him saying he was going to be running for president in 2028. Wasn't an official announcement for the campaign, but he said he was going to be running for president. And then midway through the interview, he's describing how to make crack with a jar of mayonnaise. And it's like ridiculous.
It's a clown world, man. It's a clown world.
I think where we were at there for a second was connecting this stuff to Star Force, right? And that sort of thing.
The Epstein stuff.
Yeah, before that. We can keep going with Epstein if you guys want. But
speaking of, one note on the Bidens, they're a wholly owned subsidiary of the DuPont family.
Well, that's the whole state of Delaware, but
yeah,
that's not the state. That's not the state of Delaware. That's the state of DuPont.
There you go. Like when his son let off the DuPont diddler who diddled his own child, said, "Oh, that man doesn't need to go to prison. It wouldn't do him very well." Go fuck.
Yeah,
yourself. Who does well in prison?
That's what Foxcatcher, right? That movie. That's what.
No, that was a different DuPont era. That was the one that murked the USA.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's the U.S. That's the murder on the wrestler. But you're talking about the one that Hunter Biden let off.
Bo, the champion.
Bo Biden let off.
The hero. He's a hero. So isn't that what Joe always says? Joe, he's making up war stories for his Jag son who went in country for like a month.
Delaware's a weird state, man. There's some pretty occult stuff there I've kind of been looking into too, because it's old, man. It's very old.
Well, someone may have to tell Joe Biden some of this stuff. You see this recent one out of him today?
And he would have laughed. But it's okay to laugh at stuff.
If
I told you all earlier, when I was a kid, I had a cleft palate or club foot, none of you would have laughed. It's okay to laugh at stuttering. I'm not being about you, but think about it. It's the one place where people think you're stupid. Oh, really? I'm a hell of a lot smarter than most of you.
I'm surprised you didn't challenge him to a fight outside.
Was that real?
Was
that real? That wasn't real, JJ. Was that real?
Dude, that was Jesse.
Dude, where were you at?
Jesse Jackson's funeral.
Where were you at, Landon? What do you mean? Was that real? Do you remember the Biden administration? He was doing that every other day.
I missed those moments. They reached out to people to fight.
Dude, that's elderly abuse, man. I'm going after Jill Biden. I got sympathy for him, dude. They just keep wheeling this guy out, man. They just keep wheeling him out.
Oh, I hope they do it more, dude, and get some more of those sound bites. And Corn Pop was a bad dude. Dude, if you watch the full Corn Pop interview, dude, he's talking about kids rubbing his legs, dude. He's talking about some weird ass shit.
It's
that was before that they decided to be president afterwards. I still assert that Donald Trump forced Joe Biden to be president because he knew that there was going to be a significant amount of cheating regardless of the candidate. He wanted to make it the most ridiculous candidate possible. And so what I'm saying by that is he threw a fit on Twitter in July of 2016 when Hillary Clinton didn't get charged, right, by the famous James Comey interview. Oh, we're not charging her for her fucking treasonous acts or whatever. Basically, her bathroom server, unsecured bathroom server that copied emails to China. Well, that's weird. That was in a fucking intel report published by Congress, and somehow she's still allowed to walk around. But my point there was he was so butthurt by that because they quoted a policy, but not a law, not a regulation, a policy memorandum by the Department of Justice saying they will not charge a presidential candidate during an election year. Hunter Biden got indicted for all of his tax fraud in November of 2019, right?
Yeah, and then there was another case too, right, in 23.
Well, but all of that stuff we've seen connects directly to his father. So the moment that Hunter Biden gets charged, I have no doubt there could be a sealed indictment for Joe Biden in the fucking Delaware federal court. That wouldn't surprise me. They just let it sit there either. Because there's no way they're going to indict him and not indict Joe in that same fucking grand jury, in my opinion. But nonetheless, we get Joe Biden presidential candidate 2 months after that, less than 6 weeks after that indictment. A man who was polling less than 10% and his running mate was polling less than 1% in their own party.
Yeah, like.
But if once Hunter Biden got indicted, they're in that Delaware court. Which that still hasn't fun. Where's that at these days? He's out cooking crack and shit on the side at a mayonnaise charge, dude. He's not being held accountable. We're talking about Epstein. What I'm getting at is there's a real lack of accountability across the spectrum of activities, not specifically just Epstein. Some of the people may be connected to Epstein, but they're doing a lot of other hood rat shit.
A lack of education, JJ. A very steep lack of education is what I would call it.
And there's a lot of that.
You were talking about Biden, but if you didn't learn your lesson after Bernie Sanders, then you're an idiot because he got kicked in the teeth, dude. And then, he was all for Hillary. Like that was when the show was over. Like that's when the kayfabe was worn off at that point.
Yeah, and then suddenly Bernie's photographed in an Audi R8 and buys a new lake house on Lake Champlain. That's big money. You got a lake house in Lake Champlain. That's $1 million easy just for a little lot with a shack.
Epstein files, JJ. I know you were talking about them. What did you think about the whole PizzaGate ordeal situation? What do you think? What's the hot take?
Oh yeah, I think a lot of that stuff is probably accurate, right? I mean, why do we see all these chefs dying?
Dude,
let's look at it from that angle, right?
Obama chef.
Code words let's say that those are code words for cooking human meats, not the delicious variety, not delicious meats, but human meats. And let's say that they're getting their chefs to do it. Well, then that makes a lot of sense. But we have so many fucking celebrity chefs, presidential chefs, all getting fucking murked, dude, under weird circumstances. I'm just saying, if you look at it, if you want to validate some of that stuff, I think it can be validated in that regard, or at least substantiated in some respect.
The one dude was the guy that shot up that allegedly shot up Common Ping Pong. Wasn't he? He was one of Clinton's boys.
Right? Yeah, his father was deeply connected to Hillary Clinton and her Haiti efforts.
Yeah,
Edgar Madison Welch, I believe was his name. He's now allegedly deceased.
Yeah, he got dropped down there in North Carolina at a
North Kakalaka.
At a traffic stop. They just gunned him down.
That's what they say. There was also a meme spread around that he was Hawk
Tua's brother or cousin.
Yeah, I did about that. There ain't no Welch connections there.
I wish there was though, dude. Wouldn't that be awesome?
It would be fun, right?
That was a quick fall off, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, so Edgar Madison Welch's father was a film producer as well, Hollywood film producer. He was an IMDb actor.
Yeah, they were.
He should be ignored.
Yeah, he was making films.
Yeah, and connected to the Clintons. So you got Clinton, film producer, actor. Suddenly, this actor, the son of the film producer, connected to Clinton's Haiti operations, fires one shot into a pizza place and knocks out a server. Okay. Yep. I was born in a
don't you
barn and
see-
I bathed in a river growing up,
JJ,
sir. But I'm not buying any
how-
of that bullshit.
That's how you take on a situation like that. You gotta give people deniability. You know what I mean? You can't, like, I don't know how am I trying to say this. You can't have them just shoot it up. Like, you got to have I guess a demonization of a certain question, a line of questions, right? You would have to have something in place for that. I mean, we see it all day, every day now. I mean, it's nothing new, but I just found
They're
that
obsessed with plausible deniability. That's the whole thing in these files. It's all, they're speaking in code because they don't want to see the inside of a jail cell. I mean, that's what I picked up on it. I mean, he was writing emails to himself too. Epstein was, and like these memos, and in those he was obviously speaking in code to himself. And then you see the emails he's sharing with other people. He's speaking in code, and those, they're speaking in code back to him. I think that's the whole thing with the pizza references in there. I do think that's probably tied to PizzaGate, to tie that in. I think that's what they
Papa John's now.
And then grape soda. Of course, we know all this. Like it's been, jerky, all that. I mean, one of the emails Epstein sent to himself that I saw, he was talking about, dog shooting, girls, long-term affairs, all these random feeds wife antibiotics. He was basically this one wasn't as coded, but it was like half code. Then the whole thing was like, after I read through it, it became pretty clear that it was a laundry list of dirt he had on people like Bill Gates. I think that's probably what the feeding wife antibiotics note was all about, was the Bill Gates thing. So, but it's coded. And like Ghislaine, man, she was speaking. I don't know if you guys saw that interview with her where she's in prison and they're interviewing her and she's talking. She's saying all this weird stuff. Like I think she was talking in code so that whoever saw the interview would know what she was saying. Cause she was talking about how, what was it, like breakfast consists of cereal and a piece of fruit. You must make your bed military style. It's just weird.
MK Ultra shit, right?
Generally speaking, right? You're dealing with spooks, right?
Right. Well, she's a Maxwell, right? So she was brought up in an intelligence household. They know how to speak in code. They got words for things. I mean, that part to me was obvious.
Because one of the known knowns about Maxwell is her father was distributing the Promise software around the world for the numerous intelligence agencies, it seems, but notably American intelligence services, or this enterprise of deep staters, Nazi deep staters in America, if you will. But it seems that out of the reports I've now seen, that Jeffrey Epstein was running a data center out of his New Mexico ranch and infiltrating all these different networks. Yeah, he had a copy of the Promise, I think.
Dude,
if you look at
JJ,
if you look at the pictures, of the inside of his place, they were taking pictures of one of his little closet rooms, and the whole thing was Ethernet cables. Just the guy had a surveillance state set up in his house. And then in another one of his closets is just stacks and stacks of boxes of hard drives to store all the information he's getting from the Ethernet cable. Right?
He's definitely harboring a lot of information. And even if you look at some of the information in the emails, they're like, hey, this guy wants to talk to you. He deals in information. So there's even people saying that about him, right? He deals in information, and he does. That's what he does. So this is how I got started on the Promise portion with the New Mexico ranch. Though, is this person's article right here on Twixter. I'll put a link here in the notes. It's a multi-part series they put together here. All sorts on DOJ documents, right? So what I found, Jeffrey Epstein wasn't just a sex trafficker. He was a switchboard routing government secrets, Wall Street intelligence, and political power through one network. Promise software.
Sounds like it's a newer version, right? It's more updated.
Yeah, I'm sure they have evolved it. Yeah.
Wait,
what do you think?
Wait, break it down real quick. What's your thing with this Promise software? What are you saying?
JJ.
Oh, well, I'll let Landon do that one. Landon can explain that one quite well.
Yeah, just let me know.
It's basically a corruptible software that was sent to various military courts. Originally, it was for the DOJ. Funny that the DOJ is bringing this shit out, and they sit there and stole a software single-handedly from Bill
Proto
Hamilton.
AI. Thank you, Uncle Ted. Sorry,
But-
sir. Yeah, Proto AI for sure.
What happens if he was like? Do you want me to keep going on promise? It was basically
Really?
intelligence for Iran Contra, but I think he was uploading his conscious to those server rooms. I think that's what he was trying to do. That's why he had all those dudes from. That's why he had all those dudes from Los Alamos. I don't think it was underground base. I think it was underground base, but I think that's what they were trying to.
Well, we know that's what these transhumanists are trying to do. Even the VP of Google there, who's written the philosopher on transhumanism. I can't think of his name right now. Anyhow, he takes like 200 vitamins a day, trying to live forever. But that's his main goal is to upload his consciousness.
Vampire. I know you're talking.
Yeah. You read the Singularity is Near was his first book. Ray Kurzweil.
Yeah, man. Ray Kurzweil. I researched him. He came up in my research quite a bit. He's saying that the singularity is going to hit in 2029. Yeah. And he's been saying that since 1999. So basically for 30 years, he's been saying that. And he's stuck to it this whole time. And yeah, I think they're counting on it, man. I think that, so the promise is proto AI. That's interesting.
It was like an early AI. So it was developed by the NSA. It was called Prosecutor Management Information System, PROMIS, designed in which to use databases to talk to other federal and state databases within the Department of Justice. However, these deep staters, this deep state network got a hold of it out of the Cabazon Indian Reservation in Riverside County, California, just outside of that same epicenter of occultism in Los Angeles, because there were Satanists operating out of this compound as well in these operations. And we have Michael Riconosciuto, who'd been grown up, according to him, into a multi-generational satanic upbringing. His godfather was the grassy knoll shooter, Fred Chrisman, and he was building lasers for the U.S. Navy at the age of 16. So Michael Riconosciuto was adopted into this hood rat shit program because he's very much hood rat shit. Despite his intelligence, he loves drugs and hood rat shit.
He is the hood rat.
What's that?
It said he is the hood rat, and I don't know if he loves drugs.
He really is.
I have some complaints.
He knows everybody and everything.
That we got to go over. We got to do a show on Danger Man, because
Danger Man he reconfigures the software to be a backdoor to spy on all the other spy networks. So then the CIA, this deep state elements, mainly out of the National Security Council, using elements of intelligence services, including the CIA, but operated as the brain center, or you can call it a brain center, not much of a brain center, but the lack of a brain center out of the National Security Council in the White House, these people appointed by the bureaucratic state, right, of the president, each administration changed it over to a certain degree. Trump fired all of Obama's staff, everyone. All 200 plus
clean house.
So that was a bit of an unorthodox move, but they used it to sell to all these other nations. Well, we know a lot of it was used as apparently Osama bin Laden, aka allegedly Tim Osman, which I believe is probably his actual name, because the Osmans of the Ottoman Empire. That's the Ottoman Empire. That's the royal family they got thrown out during the World Wars, right?
That's the original.
Why wouldn't they have
Saudi
representative, right? What's that, sir?
I said that was the original Saudi royals, right?
That is, you're right. That's what I'm saying. So why would you not have an individual from that family involved in that stuff? It only makes sense.
And he's tied in with the whole Gunderson affair going on.
Well, supposedly he was using the Promise software to attack fucking CIA in the United States, right? Like that was an actual thing. Like they fried him, he's going to fry them, kind of deal, right? So he'd gone rogue. We have another CIA guy who went rogue, Chuck Chalmer Hayes. Right?
Yeah, it's your boy from Kentucky there with the Bluegrass Conspiracy.
Retired U.S. Air Force Colonel and CIA operative with credentials because they invoked national security at his court hearing, and then we don't know what else happened after that. Other than he did 17 years for some trumped-up charges because he was attacking U.S. senators with the Promise software. He built a supercomputer truck
out of a damn trailer.
Other characters, and they were putting together using this software, so they could then access all of these different databases with this revamped, reorganized version of the software by Riconosciuto, where they could then compile dossiers. They could access all these different financial accounts from across the world, everything in different countries, And then they were sending dossiers to folks on Capitol Hill there in Congress, those Muppets, and saying, look, here's all of this hood rat shit you're up to. If you don't resign, we're going to make it public. And I do believe there was a number of folks that resigned, not the least of which was Colorado Senator Gary Hart, who was a presidential, he was a presidential hopeful that year. So I do think it was used for that purpose by some of these other folks. So when I'm saying like Epstein's got it and he's doing the same thing, this is the same network of Muppets have been doing the same hood rat shit with the software for like 40 years.
You got the bioweapons too, JJ, where they're trying to they're trying to make bioweapons for races. Is what
I don't doubt that wouldn't be something Epstein would be involved in. He seemed to be
in the 80s. This is in the 80s.
Yeah. Well, they probably did it in the 70s. You know what I'm talking about.
What's Kurzweil's connection again to the Promise software?
Well, he was saying that Landon was saying that they were doing transhumanist shit with Epstein and uploading his consciousness. I said, yeah, that's the philosophical godfather of that kind of is Ray Kurzweil.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. I think a lot of these guys are looking to him, or taking notes, listening to Ray Kurzweil and taking notes.
A friend of mine went to his conference one year, dude. I remember talking about it, dude. And it's something because he's a robotics engineer. He was in all, he's not really into the whole idea, but he's interested in it in a more scientific fashion than my interest in it are. But nonetheless, everyone looks up to Ray Kurzweil. Yeah, he's kind of like the godfather of the whole movement. Yeah. With the whole
There's another
conference, right? He held with Boston.
There's another guy. Let's see if you know this guy's name. I'm gonna look it up right now. Who was in the Epstein files? He's big in the AI world as well. His name's David Hansen. Do you know him?
That's fucking interesting.
No.
Who's that?
That's
okay.
What
I don't know.
David Hansen from Hansen Robotics. He's a real creepy son.
Yes. Now let me ask you this. I've heard rumor that he's involved with the OTO and like has some legit occult ties. What do you know about him?
No, he's confirmed a member. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, hold on. All right, let me just tell people this real quick. David Hansen is the guy who is sending. He was supposedly making a Robo Epstein.
Yeah, they were going to make Silicon Valley, the TV show or the HBO show.
Is this Boston Dynamics shit?
Hansen Robotics.
Sort of. It's Rhode Island's version of Boston Dynamics, right?
Yeah, it's on par with it.
He's got this is what clued me into him, JJ. Hansen named his AI robot Sophia. And I was like,
they did a great parody of that whole relationship with so the parody of him and Sophia in the show Silicon Valley on HBO.
Gnostic.
Yeah, well, that's not it. I don't know what that book was. That's the TV show by Mike Judge, Silicon Valley, has a parody. It's a whole parody of Silicon Valley. It has a parody of Hansen and his Sophia robot, and he's banging the robot. The guy in the show is. So this, they knew about all this creepiness years ago. Is what I'm saying. In this TV,
they had a blood boy, JJ, in that show.
Blood boy, right? They had a blood boy.
But what?
That was very weird.
Okay, so what about Hansen though? Like the connections to the OTO?
I just think it's well known how creepy this son of a bitch is. It was 8 years ago, they were writing an HBO series that he's banging his robot, and it's obviously Sophia and Hansen Robotics.
Okay, but he is in the OTO.
That's from what I've seen. He's it's the same way I see I say John Podesta in the OTO. You don't make comments like you need a thelemic favor unless that has context or understanding to the parties using that terminology, right? So I don't know.
A regular person wouldn't know what that meant.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, it wouldn't have any meaning. You wouldn't be using the term thelemic for anything unless you're a Thelema.
Yeah. Well, there was this whole milieu too with Jeff Ling, the founding director of DARPA, and Epstein. They've got something going on with Bill Gates that they're alluding to in the files, where it's like it ties in with biological technologies, and you start to wonder, okay, what was the connection here with the pandemic? If Epstein is palling around with, he's saying, I'm about to jump on a plane with BG, with Bill Gates, and he's talking about Jeff Ling and DARPA and Biological Technologies Group. what about the pandemic? Was this something that they sort of thought up? You see where I'm going with this?
Well, I mean, there seems to be implications that that was a project of theirs, both Bill Gates and Epstein in conjunction with.
And maybe that's the whole damn pie here that everybody's missing out on.
Well, transhumanism is a big part of all. I think all of these Crowleyites, they love the transhumanism stuff.
Not
the
saying
transgenderism, which then eliminates gender, then gets to transhumanism, which is what we see in the process. What we see in the Baphomet statue used by the Satanic Temple, right, in Salem, Massachusetts today. This fellow right here is from Harvard, William Sims Bainbridge, fourth great grandson of Admiral William Bainbridge of the Society of Cincinnati, New York chapter. And he is a member of the Process Church, has been since the early 70s, and he is their philosopher on transhumanism as well.
Look at his bio, JJ. Look, he's on the board for ethics and emerging technologies. He's probably a very ethically sound fellow. He also is working on video games. So mind control. This guy, I mean,
he's the co-director of Cyber Human Systems of the National Science Foundation, friend. He's a major player in all this stuff.
I think he has everyone's best interest at heart. That guy does.
He seems he's a processing. I'm sure he doesn't hate humanity. It's only in their fucking motto. Humanity's the devil. So you have a guy who thinks humanity's the devil, developing an AI and all this fucking technocratic fucking transhumanism nonsense.
So from what I understand, allegedly there is an email between Epstein and somebody named Bill talking about planning a pandemic. You guys heard about that?
I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it. It seems a bit on the nose, but I could see where it would be something like that would be real.
Well, shit, I mean, they ran Event 201 fucking 2 days before it kicked off. Literally, I think it was in November of 2019.
Yeah, and again, I think that it could be both in a real email, but what's on these other 47,000 emails that haven't been released yet? Then, right? Like,
was the email? You said something and I didn't catch what you said. Did you think that email was legit or not?
I think it could be legit. I think it's certainly, but we know Bill Gates was involved in that Project 90 or whatever bullshit before the pandemic. Yeah. All that planning stuff with the UN. We know he funds the World Health Organization. They're the ones who instituted the pandemic. That's all financed by Bill Gates. And in fact, the World Health Organization through Bill Gates then sent $600 million to the Clinton Foundation, which is an unlawful, illegal foundation that should only be, it's only legally authorized to operate as a library in a very specific plot of land in Little Rock, Arkansas. That's why the great state of West Virginia threw them the fuck out. Sent him a letter, said, you ever bring your charity nonsense back here again, we'll charge you. I believe Mississippi did the same thing to the Clintons. But it's all financed by Bill Gates, and he brought in all the pandemic aspects. So you want to see how it operated, all the political portions operated in America through the Clinton Foundation, financed by the World Health Organization, which is then financed by Bill Gates, and he also sends another $300 million to the Clinton Foundation on the side. So Bill Gates is all that. Sure,
it's all these foundations and organizations and philanthropic activities, man.
All this stuff. On rapists, sir, but I understand what you're saying.
Can you pull up the picture, JJ, of
Bill Gates, the full-on rapist? Did you know he got started as a congressional page? Like he probably got raped.
But
we're still the congressional page. You know the congressional page program, the sex slaves that the Congress Muppets used to have living in the Capitol? You know, the one in 2004 where Mark Foley, the U.S. congressional Muppet representative out of Florida near Tampa, was sex messaging a 15-year-old? I believe that's what ended the program.
Oh, what?
You didn't know that Congress Muppets had their own sex slaves? Oh, yeah. Bill Gates was getting banged by somebody there. And he's fucking living there.
If you believe Nick Bryant, he put out some pretty thorough research, in my opinion. He did an investigation where he found out that there were orgies with 11-year-olds going on with Epstein on the island.
Oh,
have you guys heard of it? Have you looked into Nick Bryant? I mean, he's
Franklin scandal.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it's thorough research. You know, these people are rich, bored sadists, right? They seem to be bored.
It's you get weeded out over certain levels and stuff like, oh yeah, that one's a dark Muppet. That one will do some devious shit. That one's real dumb.
Regular sex stuff isn't doesn't seem to do it for these people. Like they seem to have to be, they're like bored with the regular stuff. Have you ever been around like really,
I think that
really
goes
rich
to the
people?
Crowleyism aspects, right? So it's all the depraved nonsense and sex magic stuff you see in Crowleyism is what we see being represented in these folks' lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
Banging the animals, with the dog, the German shepherds, the other animals. Crowley calls for an 8-year-old to be sacrificed as a sex magic ritual is like the pinnacle of fucking magic shit.
When I was in college, I worked at this bar, and I only worked there for a little while. I didn't really care for it, but it was in like a wealthier side of town, and it was all these housewives that would come to this bar every night, but especially Friday and Saturday night. The whole bar would be women over 40 and just rich housewives. They are the most bored people on the planet. They're just bored. They have money and they don't have anything to do. And I think that as silly as this sounds, I think that they're so bored that they just have to keep like upping the ante. They have to top the last thrill. And that applies to the sex too. Regular sex just doesn't cut it
that too, but when we see all these people demonstrating aspects of veneration or admiration or membership in the Crowley organizations and offshoots, I have to ask: is all of this just rooted in what they describe as their religion? It seems that way.
Of course, there's the sex magic aspect to this. I would never downplay that. I think that when you see
that's a big part of the Epstein kid diddling too, right?
Right, but when you see and hear that what they found in Epstein's temple was a bed. It's like some Masonic pillars and a bed. The first thing I thought was, what's a bed doing in a temple? Because let's face it, that thing looks just like a temple. So what's a bed doing in there? Sex magic.
I have a clip for that.
That's Solomon's temple, right?
He had to have been aware of the implications of sex magic.
I don't disagree, sir. Again, he signs a magician's signature. He hangs out with Thelemites and a Thelemite here of the Typhonian order, it seems, one Peter Lavenda, longtime friend of John Podesta, and part of the whole epicenter of devil shit and aliens, describes what he calls the Temple of Poseidon, Landon. That's what Lavenda calls it here.
Oh. Temple of Poseidon on his island.
Okay, I have something that no one's mentioned yet on this, and it occurred to me just recently because one of my favorite films that I saw when I was 18 years old was The Magus.
The Magus.
The Magus stars Anthony Quinn, Michael Caine, and Candice Bergen. I think it was probably her first role. Mm-hmm. 1968. It's based on the novel by John Fowles. It was a very big novel at the time, a bestseller. Okay. Anthony Quinn plays this mysterious person living on an island in Greece. Michael Caine is a British school teacher. He's just dumped his girlfriend, who's an air hostess or something. And now he's trying to find himself or whatever. He's a sort of an arrogant, closed-off, cold person. And he's a school teacher on this island in Greece. But the mysterious person, played by Anthony Quinn, invites him to his house. And in his house, there's a temple to Poseidon. And that temple to Poseidon, you see it briefly from a distance. Mostly you're inside, right? It's in the interior, or you see the Poseidon statue. But there is a shot from a distance. And my God, if that temple of Poseidon is not a replica of the one on Epstein's island.
Really?
And then what freaked me out a little bit more.
What's the name of this movie?
The Magus, M-A-G-U-S.
The M-A-G-U-S.
The Magus, that's it. There's Anthony Quinn, yeah.
Okay, find the temple, Poseidon temple.
That's
right?
Magus, Magi, that's Zoroastrian, by the way.
Yeah.
Ancient Iron Ring.
Magic shit.
Yeah.
Well, again, when we were saying earlier, sir, when all these folks are mashing these occult principles together, they're going to be reaching back to some of those, which I think is also why we see Scientologists Will and Jada Smith getting married in front of a painting or more of a mural of a very similar looking structure.
That is weird.
Well, these are also Crowlites. They're Scientologists.
I didn't know Will Smith was a Scientologist.
Oh yeah, they had a charter for L. Ron Hubbard school, one of his Delphi schools.
Yeah, that's a weird family. Just everything's weird about
you can see them kids. They got the Scientology Xenu education. You don't learn a regular education. You build everything in clay, and you learn a bunch of weird L. Ron Hubbard shit.
Mm-hmm.
That's their curriculum. But yeah, that's what the Smith kids went to school, was the one owned by their parents, chartered through Scientology. Now Jada has come out and said she's a Scientologist. Will says he's never made that public statement, but you don't get that charter unless you're a Scientologist. Other Scientologists have said he was a Scientologist as well. I'm just saying, like, they're getting married in front of a very similar looking mural, a very similar looking structure.
Yeah. Again, like we sort of started this episode with, it all goes back to the occult. Even the cloning stuff here, the Prince Andrew. So one of the emails that was sent to Epstein was from Prince Andrew's wife, which I'm surprised he's able to keep a wife, but nevertheless, his wife sends an email to Epstein congratulating him on a new baby boy. It's a very bizarre sort of thing to say. And the situation with that, I guess, is so crazy that people have been saying that that's a reference possibly to Epstein cloning himself. And the genetic stuff that he was into. At the very least, it's something to do with his genetics program, right? And that evokes Joseph Mengele and the Nazi occultists and the cloning stuff that they were doing in Hitler's.
Probably where he learned it from.
Post World War II enclave in South America. At the very least, it's a breeding program like what the Nazis were doing. It was all derived from the occult. Like I said before, the Thule Society is what kicked the whole thing off. And then they were, it's like you were talking about earlier, JJ, where it's like they take inspiration from these other places and pull it in and mix it up, mash it up, amalgamate it. We had in the 1920s over here, we had a society that popped up called the American Eugenics Society. And the Nazis were watching that closely and taking notes on that too.
Wasn't Bill Gates' dad directly involved in that?
I think so, but I'd have to double check. Yeah,
he was an attorney. He was on the board of Planned Parenthood. He had an office in Beijing in 1952. I've yet to figure that one out, how that occurred. I have record of it. I don't know how. Supposedly not allowed to be American in Beijing in 52. I don't know how that happens. Epstein had an office over there too.
Well, that was Bill Gates' mom right there with Planned Parenthood.
Bill Gates' mom was the daughter of the head of the Federal Reserve there in Seattle.
Or what was Bill Gates' connection with Planned Parenthood? That was his dad, or
his dad? His dad was on the board.
Okay.
Friends with Margaret Sanger.
Yeah, I knew it was one.
But his dad had an office, the law office in Beijing in 52, dude. That's what I'm getting at there is he's probably part of that Dulles Enterprise, which is they set up one of these NGOs, like a foundation, right? But for government, a non-governmental organizational foundation that's run by government, the Secretary of State from the U.S. That's how the Dulles boys got American. As a predecessor to Vietnam was this they called it the South Pacific, jam things up your butt organization, trade organization or something. But I presume, given that the time and everything else like that somehow Bill Gates' father was involved in that. We know he's involved in a very similar. When you mentioned the Zodiac Club from the Epstein files, there's an infamous picture with, I think it's Anthony Fauci, Ted Turner, Bill Gates' dad, one of the Astors, I think Tom Brokaw, which Tom Brokaw was in that Zodiac Club.
Zodiac, yeah.
But there was no women allowed in that club, from what I recall reading. So this isn't a picture from that club, but it shows you that these folks all kind of in that echelon, they have little clubs, but these little clubs overlap, even if it's not an overtly occult club like the Zodiac Club or these kind of like social kind of business clubs they form in these organizations, right? Do you know about that with Bill Gates' dad hanging out with Anthony Fauci and gang in the 80s?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
You should probably, you should lay that out. I haven't heard that, but I mean that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, there's
is this your Edward Wayne Edwards connection, JJ?
Hey, wait a second. Maybe Edward Wayne Edwards is the coronavirus? He died. Became the
what are you? Are you Jesse Ventura now? Do you got how many you got down there in the Baja now? How many terriers?
I gotta find this picture really.
I don't know. Why don't you tell me what I said?
It's definitely again, the first thing I thought of when I saw that Zodiac stuff was that one picture with Bill Gates is dead in it. It's Ted Turner, one of the Astors. Bill Gates? Was William Gates? I guess William Gates Sr. Right? Astor. Well, I'll have to get back to you, gents, on this because in the folks of the interwebs, I can't find it. Oh, here it is. So George Soros is in it. There's all sorts of Muppets in this one. Well, it was what I thought of when I saw the stuff on the Zodiac Club, because it's kind of like the Zodiac Club to me seemed like it represented like an individual kind of the leader of each kind of industry within New York City, in which they could then kind of manipulate the entire city through these one major players in each little portion of the city's industries, right? And that's why you see like a media person like Tom Brokaw. Like that's kind of how I took it. I don't know,
right. It's a Cosmos Club model. That house set up in DC.
Yeah. That's a good way to look at it. So this is a very Cosmos, in that same regard, it's very Cosmos Club like. You got Anthony Fauci, Ted Turner's. There's Tom Brokaw, right? That's what I said when I saw his name. This is what I thought of. Bill Gates Sr.
Oh, this is crazy, dude. What? What is this?
Walters, David Rockefeller, dude. Brooke Astor. I knew there was an Astor involved in the mix. I don't know some of these Jewish names. Irene Diamond, Leonora Annenbergs.
Ted Turner.
Ramfelli. This is a Muppet name. Come on, guys. This is not a real name. Mamfella Ramfelli. Come on, dude. That's a Muppet name. Get a new name.
Ramfella.
Yeah, I don't know what this is. I don't know what this is from. It says this is 2001.
2001. I mean, it looks like Bilderberg or something adjacent.
Something like that, right? Yeah. I mean, it seems to be more American focused. There's Barbara Walters. She's friends with Epstein. She was at the Epstein release party when he got out of jail.
Is this the lady from
okay. Let's highlight something real quick. These media personalities being wrapped up in this. You know, like you said,
Bill
JJ.
Bill Clinton's PR guy there, George Muppetopoulos.
So, yeah, and then you've got the guy who's a Vanderbilt, was
that Troy Lateral?
No, the Anderson Cooper who was CIA, and he's a Vanderbilt bloodline media personality. You pointed out, but Tom Brokaw, right? What's he doing? And he's Zodiac Society. He's like Ted Turner was the media.
He's the rich man's Dan Rather. Dan Rather's the poor man's Tom Brokaw.
Yeah. Yeah, and Ted Turner though, he was the media for a while, right? Right? He ran all the.
But Ted Koppel, come on, I mean, it's a little bit out of our generations. But looking back at it, Ted Koppel, Tom Brokaw, or Dan Rather, who are you picking? You're picking Brokaw every time.
I know what you're saying. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like, so to me, he represents kind of the guy that everyone trusts on the TV every night, man.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. Thank you.
You're not, because you had Koppel, Rather, and Brokaw. You're going to get Brokaw every time. Rather's an idiot. He's the anchor man. He's the Ron Burgundy of evening news. And Ted Koppel is just going to out Koppel you, dude. He asks so many fucking questions. Nobody wants that.
That's
they own the media. I mean, we've known this for years. We've been saying this for years, but that's
a good exhibit of it, though. That's a good exhibit.
It's a great
Ted Turner and Tom Brokaw right there. I mean, you're wielding all the power across cable news.
Exactly.
I think the game's changed a lot, boys. I think
so.
Dude, he's back when you could smoke cigarettes like a fucking American on TV and deliver the news. That's what Tom Brokaw.
But nobody watches it. That's the thing today. Nobody watches the news, bro. I don't know how
not anymore. But back in this era that we're describing, that's why all this shit has transpired into your Jeffrey Epstein experience. I mean, Joe Rogan experience style situations. You know, I mean, that dude's basically the mouthpiece for the Epstein network. Now he's like, oh yeah, Lawrence Krauss tried to get me to fuck his wife or whatever nonsense he's saying now. Well, where was that fucking 7 years ago when you're talking about Epstein, when you had Epstein's chef on there. Adam Perry Lang was Epstein's chef for almost 5 years. Rogan didn't ask him no questions. He didn't mention how Epstein was trying to get involved in his life. He was trying to get involved in his life at that same time, according to the stories he's telling right now. So we can see where this kind of mockingbird operation. You got your John Kira cows, you got your vegan Joe Rogan over there with the guy with the black suit. You got your Persian Joe Rogan with Patrick Bet-David. You got your diet Joe Rogan with the little Sean Ryan fellow. He's a little bit smaller. Even it's hard to do, but I think he's a little bit smaller than Rogan. You know, I mean, you have your variations of the same style and format.
You can go get what you want with you got Candace Owens.
You want to go full schizo, dude, with Candy Hook? You got Candace Owens.
It's just like you said. It's just transition. It's like it's crazy, dude. Really, but I think it's wearing off. I think that's why the propaganda has to be so thick. So I think we're winning on that front. So I'd like to leave it at that.
For sure.
Zodiac Society. I got the info on that. But it's an email from 2010. In the thick of it, media still rules the world in 2010, right? And
right.
It's Bob Pyrie, who was a Berkeley lawyer, lived in New York. Murray Gell-Mann, American theoretical physicist. Paul Volcker, chair of the Federal Reserve.
There you go.
Another New York guy. Brokaw, right?
The goat, according to the chat.
And then some guy named Huey or Howdy, who his family owns Stewie Vesant Town, which is a neighborhood in Manhattan.
Oh,
so I
Brooklyn,
went back. So this is Epstein was helping, from what I can tell, he was helping to pick members for this club because they were all older. And so when one of them would die, for instance, Brokaw was 86 at the time of this email, and all the other guys I mentioned are dead now. Pyrie died in 2015. Gell-Mann died in 2019. Volcker died in 2019. So they put these old guys in this club, and when one dies off, they obviously they replace them. And I think that was Epstein's role, more or less, was
that makes sense because he's kind of a clearinghouse, right? I mean, that kind of jives with what we know he was doing, right?
Right.
Now in that list there, where's Manfella Ramfella? Where's she at in all this?
It's a perfect role. It's a perfect role for Epstein, and I think it just, you look at the Zodiac Society is what they were calling it. I think it really illustrates that they all know each other, and it's a big club. It's a big club made up of. It's a big, right.
It is a big club because author Tom O'Neill gets on in his propaganda about the Manson business, never once mentions the process. Gets invited on Joe Rogan to do his neighbor, Greg Fitzsimmons, who had some deep process connections himself there. Thanks to Ted there.
But also, I think you alluded to this a minute ago, JJ, but you want to highlight, or I'll highlight the New York angle to this club, specifically the Zodiac Society, very centered around New York City. It's kind of like, it's like, again, I would liken it to the Cosmos Club as well. Cosmos Club was DC. They were based out of DC. These power centers.
That's a good way to put it, though.
These power centers of Western civilization. So DC, New York, perfect places to have this. And wouldn't you know it, that you look in these pictures that were shot inside Epstein's dwellings, and there's NYPD uniforms in his closet.
Yeah, Secret Service clothing.
Various types of uniforms for, what was that for him to sneak into places? Was that for his cronies to sneak into places? Is that involved with trafficking?
Probably.
Right? Who was trying to impersonate the officers here?
Right.
It makes me listen. Hold on. These organizations, that would not surprise me in the least.
Listen, it makes me wonder about some of these guys who may have been outliers. Like, people, let's face it, sometimes people get big and they're not a part of the club, and they're faced with a crossroads. Am I going to go dark Hollywood, or am I going to, not do that? And I think there's been some outliers over the years, like perhaps like Chris Cornell and the guy from Lincoln Park, Chester Bennington. It makes me wonder about those guys. Maybe even Anthony Bourdain.
Anthony Bourdain.
It makes me wonder about those guys. Did they die because they hung off to the side? They didn't really want to join in. And beyond that, did they die because they wanted to actually take it a step further and expose some of this stuff?
Okay.
It's certainly possible. Chris Cornell hails from the elite families that bring us Cornell University. So, the elite family of New York. So that's the same Cornell's.
Yeah, okay.
And so he's got a long history. Eddie Vedder's family to the same New Amsterdam, the Vedder family. Kurt Cobain's family, the Cobains, same epicenter of activity in the 17th century. Mid 1600s in New Amsterdam, which is now New York. It seems that Chris Cornell's forefather Cornell, Kurt Cobain's forefather Cobain, and Eddie Vedder's forefather Vedder all fucking knew each other. How is it 300 years later their fucking descendants are...
Hold on. Pause. I've never heard this before.
Yep. You have the Cornell family. Vedder's forefather was involved in some political structures in and around Albany, and I believe Cobain's forefather was a sheriff in New Amsterdam. He's an Irishman amongst the Dutch.
Is this a grunge conspiracy that goes back to the 1700s?
It is, and for sure. And the Tafts aren't very, very far apart. The Tafts bring us the grunge movement. One of the Taft is kind of this puller strings there. Dudley Taft. He's a member of a mid-range Seattle grunge band named Sweetwater. They're the opening touring act for Alice in Chains and Candlebox on their national tours. So they were a major act. You just may never heard of him. He was the lead singer. His high school classmates from the Bush School there in Seattle, a very prestigious private school, were the presidents of the United States of America grunge band. That band.
Right.
So this Dudley Taft is a descendant from the man who brought us Skull and Bones.
What about...
That's the same
guy
family, right?
What about the guy from the Smashing Pumpkins? Is he an outlier?
Bill Burr's brother. Nah, Bill Burr of the same Aaron Burr family.
And
And they recognize today that Bill Burr, the homeboy's father, is Bill Burr's father.
Right? Billy Corgan, I mean?
Yeah, Billy Corgan recognizes that his father is actually Bill Burr's father.
So they're all involved?
A musician, apparently, at one point in time.
They're all involved.
Dude, I'm telling you, always
JJ.
Matthew McConaughey.
This is every band.
Matthew McConaughey and fucking Woody Harrelson openly admit they're brothers. They have the same dad, the mob assassin, Harrelson.
Right, yes. I knew that.
And even Matthew McConaughey's mother recognizes. She's like, yeah, I've long known that's their father. And you look at Rooster McConaughey, he looks more like a Harrelson than he does the McConaughey.
Hold on, okay, but hold on a second. I'm still not ready to get off of this grunge thing yet. I still need to process this, man. How long have you been sitting on this one, JJ?
Oh, wow! I wrote about it. Probably my old website. My original smells like Laurel Canyon started off as a purely written series on my old website. So this would have been. I published the first chapter coincidentally the night Chris Cornell died. Right around the same time he died.
So like a synchronicity.
Publish.
So you're blogging about the same subject. Okay.
While he's actively dying. Yeah.
While he's actively dying.
Literally, literally. I woke up the next morning and my then wife was, she's like, you know who died last night? I said, I thought it was someone was one of my friends or something, And she's like, Chris Cornell. I was like, that's fucking weird. She goes, yeah, you just published that first article last night, didn't you? And I was like, yeah, I did. She's like, that's weird. I was like, yeah, it's fucking weird, man.
What about Bob Marley?
Bob Marley, his father was British intelligence, right?
Right. Well,
have you heard the conspiracy of that was a turbo can?
Hold on a second, man. Can we talk about
I like it.
Can we hold on, dude? We could go crazy with the musicians thing. Let me just focus on the grunge thing for 2 seconds. I'm still trying to wrap my head around this, right? Because this is insane. So you got the synchronicity. I have a friend who was had concert tickets to see Chris Cornell the night he died. I know that this is not a great example, but I know that people were experiencing.
Wasn't it the Masonic Theater? Wasn't he playing the Masonic Theater?
I don't remember where it was at. I don't. I think it was in Detroit. Yeah, actually, I think it was in Detroit. Yeah. Okay, so I have to ask though, what about the B-hole surfers? Because didn't they sort of created grunge, right?
You're spot on, sir. I call him the godfather of grunge, old Gibby Haynes.
Yeah, so are they involved?
For Timothy Leary, the LSD guru who said he was the reincarnation of Crowley, despite being born after Crowley died for some reason.
Let me get this straight. Let me get this straight. Gibby Haynes started the band with a dude named Leary.
Yeah, who was
not Timothy Leary?
Yeah, the nephew of Timothy Leary. Yeah. Supposedly they've gone back and forth saying they're not, but nonetheless, Leary and Gibby Haynes go to live with Timothy Leary as drug guinea pigs by their own admission, along with a neo-process figure from the band Ministry, whose name is escaping my brain at the moment. They all three live there with Timothy Leary. I think they're the bandmates Paul Leary. So Gibby Haynes' uncle was a major general in the Marine Corps, very integral figure in things such as Vietnam, and in World War II. And his father was known as Mr. Peppermint. He was a local kind of clown character on Dallas TV. He was the first man to report JFK had been assassinated on TV.
They're doing it down in Dallas.
Yeah, there you go. And that's why you see them reenact all of the JFK assassination in their only hit single.
Yeah.
Pepper.
So, weird coincidence.
Is there anything else in this grunge thing? Because this is blowing my mind.
If you've read Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon, it's the same thing. And it has some of the same characters involved. Peter Fonda sold us the hippie scene and things such as the pinnacle of the Laurel Canyon scene was supposed to be Easy Rider. In fact, what's his name? Dennis Hopper wears homeboy we were talking about before, Crosby's actual clothing and motorcycle in that film. David Crosby, back to those New Amsterdam families. David Van Cortlandt Crosby there of the Van Cortlandts and the Schulers, right? That's Alexander Hamilton married into the Schulers. These are some of the founding families there in New Amsterdam. They most certainly knew the Vedders. They most certainly knew the Cornells, right? These Muppets all know each other. But
hold on a second. Oh, I was just going to say Courtney Love too, because we haven't talked about her. She was very, very grungy. She was a part of that thing. Her dad was a major general, right? Who was drug trafficking and maybe bringing LSD in.
Her dad was a psychologist of a CIA variety.
That's who got him hooked, right?
Of the Virginia Harrisons, the one that's produced a couple presidents. Lots of members of Cincinnati.
Her dad, there was a military general involved with her story, right? Courtney Love.
No, her dad was Hank Harrison was the early manager for the Warlocks before they were the Grateful Dead.
Grateful
the
Dead
Tavistock creation, right? So he's at the epicenter of the Tavistock, this culture creation, social engineering, and the CIA. That's her dad. Although he didn't have custody over after the age, I think, 3.
The CIA part, that's where they get the influence of the drugs. It's from the CIA. That's how they can sell them. They can't just run out there and just get anybody to sell them. No, they got to get their pundits to sell their drugs.
You got to market that shit, dude, right? You got to have a good sale. You got to have a better sales plan now. You want to sell this LSD, buddy. Well, you have the LSD chemist Owsley, the dancing bear guy from the Grateful Dead logo. It's all rooted in the same culture creation, social engineering aspects of the Tavistock and CIA. And Courtney Love's father does sit at the epicenter of that activity.
Well, I haven't read it, but she's got a book out. Courtney Love does, and I've been told, and I should just read it and make sure I get my facts are straight. But nonetheless, I've been told that she was sent off at a young age to be a prostitute in like Tokyo, and but also simultaneously was like undergoing some sort of training, like MK Ultra spy training stuff. And then when she gets back, by the time she gets back into the 90s, Seattle grunge scene, she is being she's being provided drugs to hand out.
She's a full-blown agent, in my opinion. She's a according to her father, Hank Harrison, she's selling LSD and holding herself out of the Grateful Dead concerts at the age of 9, I believe it is.
The cocaine import agency, JJ.
There you go, the cocaine import agency. And
Right, yeah.
so you
The
see her.
shirts aren't
So
up yet.
she plays a role into the grunge movement, like Tuesday Weld played in the Laurel Canyon movement. And funny enough, Courtney Love and Tuesday Weld starred in the same film together in 1996. We'll call it circa 96, called Feeling Minnesota. Also starring Keanu Reeves and Dan Aykroyd. Dan Aykroyd would purchase Mama Cass's Laurel Canyon home. Mama Cass, mom was in the Papas, member of the Process Church. Dated the guy in prison today for the murder of Roy Raiden, one Bill Metzger.
Mm-hmm.
So these Muppets all know each other, but I think in a movie like Feeling Minnesota, we see the torch being handed off from the old string puller in the Laurel Canyon scene, Tuesday Weld, into the new string puller, into the new countercultural movement of the grunge in Courtney Love. And again, Peter Fonda's daughter sells us to the grunge scene. Peter Fonda sold the world Laurel Canyon with Easy Rider. His daughter, Bridget Fonda, star of the film Singles, a film directed by Cameron Crowe, which was the episode The Pinnacle of Activity and Selling the Grunge Scene, starring Matt Dillon as a grunge rock singer. His band was literally played by Eddie Vedder and Pearl Jam.
I know. They all cite that. They all cite that movie as an influence, Singles.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It served as the same countercultural influential movie as Easy Rider did, and starred Easy Rider's daughter.
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
And Peter Fonda's second wife, not Bridget's, or third wife, not Bridget's mother, I believe, was a Rothschild.
So before we, just real quick, a lot of this, especially the influence, I can speak to that. That definitely checks out. Like, especially with the BL Surfers, it's like they put out this LSD soaked song, grunge song called Cherub back in '84, all the way back in '84, right? It's like a grunge song that comes out in 1984. It's pretty interesting in that regard. And then later, Billy Corgan puts out Cherub Rock, right?
Yeah.
And I always thought, okay, I see the influence there. And then the Surfers have a song called Cough Syrup that came out, I think, 95 or 96. And it features orchestration at the end of it, which reminds me of something Billy Corgan would do later in 1987 with his music. Remember, he brought in the orchestra. It was a big deal. It was like, oh, wow, there's this grunge song with a symphonic part in it. I don't remember. 1987 is when it came out. But anyways, so you look at these early surfer songs like PSY from the early 90s, and it's the Smashing Pumpkins sound in a bottle. And I'm not trying to say that Corgan just totally ripped them off. I'm just saying, if you look, you're going to see the influences there with this band.
I'll say they ripped them off. Nirvana was ripped off from a guy from Texas. A guy named John. He was a parody. He was a musician from Los Angeles who did this parody of a country rock musician from Texas named John Wayne. And you can literally hear their "Smells Like Teen Spirit" was ripped from him completely, and that was written, I think, in about 1985. So I'll say, do they rip all this stuff? I have Led Zeppelin ripped off from their fucking Stairway to Heaven from their opening act. All these bands, I'll say, they're all a bunch of, they lack creativity, much like this Muppets at Langley, where I saw our channel just comment, despite me recognizing this as all some sort of witchcraft ritual, Pearl Jam does not suck, sir. How dare you? You know what I mean? When Eddie Vedder's saying all those non-words over the microphone, dude, that's an incantation of some sort. I used to be a huge Pearl Jam fan. I drove to Seattle to see them play. I drove from right where I'm living today here in Montana, 12 fucking hours to see them play their first time in 5 years in Seattle back in November of 2000. And I drove straight back because I had national fucking, or not national, I had fucking secure.
Our channel, Channel's going for shock value at this point. He's just trying to get a reaction.
He's a Muppet, dude. He's an AI CIA Bill Colby ball washing Muppet. But are you familiar with Nirvana's biggest album, Heart Shaped Box, was actually produced by a fucking pedophile in Processing, Steve Albini? Would you believe that? He's also responsible for the Pixies album. He's responsible for a lot of some very influential rock stuff, but he's the guy who they hired out of Chicago because Corrigan's out of Chicago, right? Out of the Smashing Pumpkins. They're a grunge band, but they're not exactly from the Seattle scene. They're from the this other corollary scene, right?
Yeah. The Pumpkins had the same producer as Nirvana at one point. I don't know if it was this guy or not, but is this guy
like? He might have done some Pumpkin stuff. I think he might have done some Pumpkin stuff. He worked for Wax Track Records. Wax Track Records, almost exclusively processing.
So is this guy for sure a pizza file? Is that confirmed?
Oh yeah.
All right. Pizza file confirmed.
Yeah. Not a good person. Not a good person.
Yeah. I mean, it's a shame, man. It's manufactured culture for sure.
No,
all the way down.
Heroes.
Yeah, we don't have any heroes left. I'm telling you, fellas.
No, this guy thankfully died, I guess, in that regard. Dave Grohl dedicated performance of the Foo Fighters song "My Hero."
Okay, let's talk about him for a second, because word on the street, Dave Grohl's dad wrote for Reagan wrote speeches for Reagan.
He did, but before that, he was the newspaper in 1964. This is before Dave was born, but Michael Stipe was born. Dave Grohl's dad was the newspaper man at Fort Benning, Georgia. Now I think Fort Liberty, Georgia, but Michael Stipe's father was a helicopter pilot there, and they would frequently, their parents would have dinners together. Dave was not born until 1969, but Michael Stipe was a young baby, I believe, at the time, about 4 years old.
From REM?
Yes, sir. And REM's manager and lawyer for 32 years was a man by the name of Burtis Downs number 4. Burtis Downs number 3 is one of those unidentified stars in the wall at Langley. Go fuck yourself, RR. You're into the Angie Muppets at Langley. Burtis Downs number 3 died in Air America. Les Wexner's airline would later purchase in 1964 what would be described as a accident in Taiwan, which after those records were declassified, the Christian minister who was doing a missionary assignment in Taiwan was actually a CIA secret agent named Burtis Downs number 3. He was not a Christian minister. He was not on a mission for the Air America flight. Did not have any mechanical failures. It was hijacked when all that stuff was declassified 40 years after the fact.
Let me hear what you got on Grohl though. What you got on Grohl? Dave
Grohl's dad and Stipe's dad go back. So Stipe was whereas Gibby Haynes is the godfather of grunge, Stipe's like the pope of grunge. So like he was the godfather to Kurt and Courtney's daughter, I believe. He was the officiant they
kissed the ring. They kissed the Snipes ring for sure. All of them.
Oh yeah, they all did. They all did, and that goes right back to the CIA right there, because the band's booking manager was the son of CIA station agent or station chief and Scientologist Miles Copeland III. You may know his sons is the drummer from the band The Police with Sting. His other two sons brought us MTV, including REM.
Incredible, man. Incredible.
It all goes back to culture creation, social engineering, and these same Muppets.
Yeah,
literally. But Dave Grohl's father was a speechwriter for Reagan. He then went on to be assigned. So he worked at one point in time for the E.W. Scripps Company in his journalism career. Right. This is after his time in the Army. After his time with Reagan. This has been the late 80s. The E.W. Scripps Corporation was owned by Taft Broadcasting at that time, both headquartered out of Cincinnati, Ohio. Taft Broadcasting, owned by Dudley Taft's father. That grunge rock guy I said was pulling the strings. Now, his cousin Taft was the guy that filmed all the music videos. I think his name was Joshua Taft. He's one of the major videographers for a lot of the grunge music videos. So we see the impact the Tafts have there. We also see the Grohl's fathers working for Dudley Taft Sr. So we see this epicenter of activity across the spectrum of their activities. But the weirdest one to me is the epicenter of Vedders, Cobains, and Cornells in New Amsterdam.
Yeah, that is
mid-17th century.
That is.
Now, I don't have them all sitting in one room. I'm just saying they all served in prominent positions in a very small populated area of New Amsterdam. One being a sheriff, the other one being a politician, the other one being an aristocratic family. I'm saying they're all of the same age and they all knew each other. Is my
yeah. I found, and I haven't hashed this out yet. I haven't even talked about this yet behind a microphone, but I found similar connections to the emo movement that comes out of Long Island, New York, and the whole Montauk Project thing. Because there was a handful of bands that came out of Long Island that started the scene emo stuff, like Taking Back Sunday and Stray Light Run, to name a few, right? And it's those guys would have grown up in the 80s there and would have been exposed to these, whatever this thing was shooting out, Montauk, that, you know, Stranger Things is kind of based off of. The old Montauk base there had a big Cold War thing on top of it. I don't remember what they call it, but apparently they were shooting out. Apparently they were shooting out like weird mind-altering frequencies all over the place.
You're talking about like this digital array or just some sort of antenna array?
Yeah, some sort of a big old antenna, that thing. Yeah.
So that's at Camp Hero. So Camp Hero is actually an auxiliary site out of was it Brookville?
Well, there's a Brookhaven.
Brookhaven, thank you, Brookhaven.
Yeah.
So it's actually Brookhaven is actually there midway through the island, and that was a secret. So that was a World War I Army camp. Then it was a secret lab from the Army before it was even turned into Brookhaven. And then so you see that there's layers of secrecy with these locations, but Camp Hero is a auxiliary site of Brookhaven Labs there, which was also part of the Manhattan stuff.
Well, okay. Well, that's cool, because in fact, if that's the case, that puts these young musicians in closer proximity to this thing. If that's the case, you see what I'm saying?
No, that's what I'm getting at. Yeah, this really originates in Smithtown.
Yeah. This is the area that some of these young musicians grew up in, and there's all this talk. And again, like, we can call this a pretty far out there theory, but they're all in the same place at the right time, where, you know, these were ex-Nazis that were running this place. Yeah.
This is a Nazi enterprise for sure.
Right. Yeah. So pull that up, bro. Yeah. There's Smithtown,
kind of midway through the. It's just across the county line from Suffolk, Nassau and Suffolk County line, and then you have Camp Heroes way out here.
Yeah.
This is Hamptons, West Hampton. I don't have it listed here. It's over here on the north side, I think. It's been a while since I've been out there. But what you're saying is very interesting, because as we're seeing Stranger Things, it's a girl. They're experimenting on girls. Yeah, it was all blonde hair, blue eyed boys. You're talking about Nazi shit. It was some deep Nazi shit. Because I learned that I was out fishing back in July of 2000. Whenever the Montauk monster washed up on shore, I was out doing some fishing for some blues out there off the tip of Montauk there that weekend. So I was out there, and all the folks were telling us, they're like, hey, this thing flew up on shore, and it was out of Plum Island, is what they were telling me. They do all these animal experiments. Now we're seeing all that stuff about the Lyme disease being proven that it came out of those labs.
And that's Lyme right up there across the bay. They got
Lyme on the other side of it. So yeah, you have Montauk, Plum Island, then the Connecticut on the other side is Lyme, Connecticut, where that stuff originates.
It's a trifecta of sketchiness up there. And you had this guy on Coast to Coast in the 90s, I think, who called in and said that we know they've been doing some weird testing there, though, right? So if we apply that to whatever they're doing with these kids, I think it's a lost concept of how much experimentation was going on in children in Long Island at that time. What you're saying, I think, has a lot of known unknowns to it, given the vicinity of everything between Camp Hero, the end of the island, and Smithtown. Man, I swear that was probably just a breeding ground of a bunch of weird experimentation for young boys in the 80s. Yeah, I think so. 100%. I feel like there's something to it. It's something that I need to, like, you know, I really need to nail down and research more. That's why I haven't talked about it yet, but I do feel like there's possibly something there. A lot of possibilities. But yeah, there was a guy who called into Coast to Coast in the 90s, talked to Art Bell, and he lived in Long Island. And he was getting all this. He was an electronics guru. He's one of these guys that had 200 radios and and all this stuff in his house, and he was picking up weird signals, and he figured he was one night he was going to trace the signal, so he figured out a way to drive around and see where the signal was strongest, and eventually it led him straight to that base that you just showed. That's where the signal was coming from.
That's pretty wild. I mean, that's like the way you described is all the radios you had. It reminds me of Preston Nichols, the guy who brings us the Montauk story.
Yeah, I think he was involved with that story.
Because he had like a whole garage full of radios and stuff. He had like a whole like, looked like your classic kind of 80s conspiracy theorist type of character. Well, when I was out in Montauk is when those folks were talking about the Montauk Monster. I got a lot of the townsfolk out there that weekend, and they were telling me that like you look like a Montauk boy. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. They said, you're the right age to be a Montauk boy. You from around here? I said, do I sound like I'm from around here? Yeah, but I said, no, I was born in Connecticut, not too far from here. They're like, you sure you're not a Montauk boy? Because I guess there was this is the local lore out in Montauk. Children, I think, boys, blonde hair, blue eyed, born from like essentially zennials, 78 to 85 or so, right? They're all considered part of the experiment.
Yeah,
according to the townsfolk of Montauk.
Yeah, and I strongly.
I told them I was from like 60 miles, and they're like, "Nah, we still think you're probably a Montauk boy."
And that's it, man. And that's why I strongly suspect that the emo scene kid rock movement, whatever we're going to call that, scene, right? That came out. I think that came out of there.
You make us. I mean, I used to be into some of that music, man. You make an interesting argument because again, there's
it's
a couple
emo.
characters of that scene. I'm like, man, I could see that character being involved in some experiments.
It's emo. It's like what happened to make the human mind create emo music? Was
dark shit, dude.
Right.
Dark shit. And look at the product, it plays into this whole transhumanism narrative we were talking about before because it's gotten men to wear makeup and fucking nail polish and all the whole emo scene, right?
Yeah, exactly. What were they blasting, man? What kind of frequencies were they transmitting out of that place?
It's a good question, man. That's a good question.
80s,
that's a big antenna they have there. And you're right.
Late 80s.
Nazis are actually they actually made it to shore there. There's an incident. There was a Coast Guard security guy, unarmed, but walking the shorelines out there, I think 46, out at Camp Hero. And there was just some Nazis just strolling about, going to and from like a submarine.
Yeah, you had that in the Chesapeake Bay, too.
So, yeah, we didn't just have the American Nazis. We had some actual fucking Nazis out at Camp Hero.
Yeah.
That for all we know, they were taking a regular supply trip out there with the submarine to, do supply something for the experiments. I don't think any of that stuff really been vetted out. I think to a certain degree, Captain America Winter Soldier is an accurate fucking documentary where they have the plot line being there's a deep state Nazi element that exists in this Hydra format, right?
Okay, I gotta read this. Here's a list of the popular scene emo Long Island bands: Glassjaw, Taking Back Sunday, Brand New, Bayside.
Brand New. Okay, I remember. Yeah, they were a big one.
Stray Light Run, Sunny Day Real Estate, and The Promise Ring.
Yep. Okay. I was thinking Brand New, dude. They have a song about driving your ex-girlfriend through the window of a car. I mean, it's some really violent shit. Like 85 miles an hour.
Jesse Lacey, I think, is the singer in that group. Yeah, he tends to be on the dark side of things with his concepts.
To your point of it being some dark shit, like that's I remember that being outside of a Thelamite band like Alkaline Trio. I remember that being the first introduction of some really dark concepts.
One of the guys in the band is an open. He says he's pagan, I think, but he's an occultist of some sort.
There you go.
Yeah. Alkaline Trio.
Tom DeLonge went to go play Aliens with his buddy John Podesta and Peter Levenda. The lead singer of Alkaline Trio joined Blink-182.
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah.
I think that's weird because Alkaline Trio is an overtly thelemic band. They have a lot of thelemic. I've seen Alkaline Trio in concert at least a dozen times, and they're overtly thelemic in a lot of their lyrics. They celebrate death in a death cult like status, like they're a band of death cultists, and they have an entire song dedicated to Sadie Mae of the Manson family.
The guys in Occult, one of the guys, the main guys in Occultist in that Alkaline trio.
Yeah. He's the same. Yeah, the lead singer. He's the same guy that was part of Blink-182 for a while. When Tom DeLonge went to go play Alien.
That's
a weird epicenter of activity with some of these bands, but you make some interesting points because Brand New introduced some dark thoughts in my brain hole.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Don't you ever? What's the Brand New line? I'm heaven sent. Don't you ever forget it. That one's not dark, but it's very cocky. He was very cocky in his lyrics. I am heaven sent. Don't you dare forget it. I remember that song, and it like that line is not dark, granted, but there's a lot of dark concepts in their music.
Okay,
and it's that Long Island, to use your word, epicenter, man. That group that I read out, they created that whole scene. They carried it.
Taking Back Sunday, they were huge, and so was Brand New. They were big time in the emo scene.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't screamo metal. This is like the scene emo rock.
It's
right?
like emo alternative rock. Yeah, it's like emo rock. Yeah.
Right. So it's the 80s. I think those guys grew up in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s.
I think they're the same age roughly as me. I mean, I was born in the 80s, so I mean, I think if I remember correctly, those bands were about my age when I used to listen to them.
Yeah. And you got to think too, just to tie in something maybe we talked about earlier with this. You got Epstein in the 80s was a double agent. I think the 80s was a crazy time for this stuff. The internet is not around yet.
Epstein
the internet doesn't
in our music scene, sir. A infamous scene where a lot of actors and musicians of note go to every summer called what's the place in Michigan? Shit, not Liechtenstein. That's a nation over there in the Alps. Interlaken summer camp. Epstein financed it, had his own house there. He was very likely an attendee, it seems, in pictures from 1967 as a 16-year-old, although there's no name associated with the picture of the summer camp that summer. It looks just like a young Jeff.
Man.
Well, you got in Michigan, too.
What's that? You name the artists, actors, and musicians. Remember that 13-year-old? Remember the actor that came out and said that Kevin Spacey raped him, Anthony Rapp? He said he was 13 years old when Kevin Spacey raped him. Jeffrey Epstein's buddy, Kevin Spacey.
Oh yeah. Spacey's in the pictures. Is some of the pictures I was talking about earlier. He's hanging out with Clinton in the Epstein pictures. Kevin Spacey is.
He was allegedly, he was on that whole mix of Prince Andrew, Epstein, Clinton. Right. They're all buddy. Well, he apparently raped Anthony Rapp at the age of 13. Well, if you look and see where Anthony Rapp was at the age of 13, he spent the summer at Interlaken. So Kevin Spacey was probably up there with that Jeffrey Epstein raping 13-year-old actor Anthony Rapp.
Mm-hmm.
He's the ginger fella from that Linklater movie with Matthew McConaughey. The Hitman son.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know what movie I'm talking about?
Well, I do. I know exactly what you're talking about. This is my thing was with this is like the world has changed. We have the internet now. There's, regardless of what you think about the Epstein file, I think some people think it's a giant psyop. I don't. I think there's a lot of truth in there. I think it's a glimpse inside of this world, this behind the scenes world, and everything that we just talked about, like especially on the Epstein front and the Rothschilds and that picture you showed where they're all Ted Turner and they're all palling around with the woman with the weird name and all that. That's the behind that. That's the behind the scenes world. And in the 80s, that world was still doing its thing without any, they got away with whatever they wanted to, because there was no internet. There was no repercussions for any of their activities. And I think that was rolling into the 80s. And then in that decade, it was still going strong. And that's where you see Jeff Epstein with his Stouty passport, among others, doing his double agent thing, and I'm not trying to open up another can.
Stouty passport with an Austrian name, which there's an actual guy with all of those details running around with that same name. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
It's called identity
for sure.
doubling. It's a very common spook tactic.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, if it's the bill, man, like we might as well throw in a couple music genres in this one, right? That's part of the whole
psyop thing. Fall on it, man. I don't think there's any music genre that's off out of this enterprise of production, right? This is how music is made.
Right.
Back to Elvis Presley and Sun Records. You know what I mean? That seems kind of occultist, right? Sun Records.
But yeah, like the Black Sun, that was a Nazi thing, occult thing. The Black Sun.
Black Hole Sun.
Black Hole Sun.
Everyone else thinks about that, doesn't he? And his Temple of the Dog talking about people eating humans in the song "We're Going Hungry" or "Hunger Strike."
Oh, man, I was so hoping that Chris Cornell would have been one of the good ones, man. I really was hoping that he was.
Well, I mean, time will tell.
I ain't got any heroes left.
Murdered. Seems like he was definitely murdered. No one breaks 13 ribs by using an exercise band at the MGM fucking suite.
Yeah, he does seem like he was murdered. Well, that's the thing. I don't know if you saw this article that just came out about Kurt Cobain. There's somebody's doing this investigation, and I'm not. Yeah, thank you, Tara. I mean, I still kind of think maybe he was. Even if the music was manufactured culture, I still think Chris Cornell hopefully was one of the good ones. I'm with you. But no, did you see this? Lately, there's some new updates in the Cobain air quote suicide, where they said that they proved that he couldn't have been.
I'll talk about suicides. You know what I mean? So they need to prove to me he's dead first. They identified him by a driver's license.
Oh, no, it's not. I didn't mean to open that door up. I didn't mean to open the door up, bro.
Have you seen the conspiracy theory that Kurt Cobain died and suddenly we get Rivers Cuomo and Weezer and he looks just like Kurt Cobain?
What is it? Did you say that? Is it Jim Morrison was Rush Limbaugh?
Jim Morrison is 100% Rush Limbaugh. They both had a heroin problem. They both use the exact same gold microphone. They both sound the exact same when singing, and they both look the exact same. You
I did not mean to open this door. Limbaugh, dude. No, I hear you, man. Hey, this has been fun, man. I'm gonna have to leave it on a high note, man.
No, that's a good.
I'm gonna have to head out here soon.
I appreciate both your gents' time and your conversation here, and thank you all for joining us at your night of GCD. Landon, did you have any closing thoughts? Any statements?
No, not really. I think I was just listening. So,
well, I will ask Jim Morrison. I'm sorry, Rush Limbaugh singing "The Doors." This is the end on the same gold microphone that Jim Morrison used. That microphone today is in
the kids are wondering, where's the teacher?
How about euthanasia update? New update, ladies and gentlemen, inaugurated today on the EIB network. This is the euthanasia update.
Beautiful friend.
That's Jim Morrison.
This is the end. My only friend.
This will be a short one. This will be ready on the close.
That's back in 91 before the ideas of interwebs or VCRs really in large part, right? In every household, at least not back then. And DVDs, etc. I think back then they got sloppy, dude. They were like, oh, I can sing along with myself on the air here in 91.
Least we forget.
Possibly.
So he gave his microphone, Rush Limbaugh did to Glenn Beck, the Mormon, and then Glenn Beck gave it to Erica Kirk. It is the exact same model and style and color microphone used by Jim Morrison. It's a very unique old microphone.
That is interesting.
And it's now Erica Kirk's. So I'm just saying, it sounds like Erica Kirk is now singing "This Is the End" and celebrating her husband's death on Jim Morrison / Rush Limbaugh's microphone. And those are my closing statements for tonight.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Tim, did you have any? You guys got any plugs before we go? Any plugs and last statements there, Tim?
No final statements. it didn't disappoint. I mean, yeah, I deserved the Rush Limbaugh video because I brought it up. So I'm happy. Always happy to entertain.
I got that on deck for you right here.
Yeah. No, man, this was fun. I appreciate you having me back on. I'll just plug my show real quick.
Yeah, please plug both of y'all. Plug your shows before we go, please.
Yeah, I'll just do it because I feel like at this point it's a habit, and I always do it anyway. So okay, Tim Constantine, Sixth Sensory. My show is Sixth Sensory Podcast. I spell it out SIX. You can find me on Spotify and also YouTube and Apple. I also have a Patreon where I drop extra content every week. And I have an Instagram, but the best place to find me is Spotify. So come check it out. I'd love to have you.
And I got your links in the show notes for your shows and your Patreon, as well as Landon's there for your fantasy football, I believe, and your Daily Dissidence, sir. Even though it's not football season, I'm sure you're gearing up for that as well soon. You got any last plugs there, Landon?
Yeah, just check me out on the Daily Dissident wherever you get podcasts. That's it.
All right. Well, thank you, gents, for your time, and thank you, folks, to the interweb for joining us here tonight. Get a little GCD and a little safety message for the road.
There's thousands of Americans out there. By the way, I've been shot with a laser beam twice.
Stay vigilant, folks. Watch your six, duck in cover. They got Ted with some lasers. He's down.
Well, that's it. That's the show here, folks. So the next time you're out on the town, visiting your local watering holes, or perhaps just meandering around, and you hear the unmistakable sounds of metal clanking, and you spot signs of a disturbance, but check your six. Look in that garbage can, because you never can tell. The GCDs may be loose in your town.